Alright, good evening everybody. This is Tech Thursdays episode 169, new hardware leaks. We're going to be talking about that in this episode, as well as some gaming news. In terms of games, Duskblood, there's like a whole bunch of leaks that I just randomly saw, so we might talk about that because Duskbloods is one of the few remaining games that is one of my most anticipated games of this year. That is the big From Software game on the Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, so we will be talking about that. If you signed up for the network test, if you were selected, I hope you downloaded the game on the Switch 2, because that will begin in less than 12 hours from now. So I will be participating. I was selected for the network test, and then I think there's like multiple different times that the server will be up. They said you're not allowed to stream it, so I don't think... It also takes place really, really early in the morning for me, so I'll probably be playing it, but don't expect me to be streaming it. I don't think I'm going to stream it because they said that we're not supposed to. So I don't want to run the risk of getting some kind of like content strike or whatever. So unfortunately, I won't be streaming the network test, at least the first one. If I find out later on that they allow it, I might do the second one later in the evening of tomorrow if they allow that. So stay tuned for that. There's a small chance that we will be able to showcase the Duskbloods network test, similar to what I did last year for the network test for Elden Ring Night Rain. If you remember back in February last year, I did show the network. I was in the network test, so we do have a lot of coverage of what that game looked like prior to release. So From Software has this format where when they do the network test, the game typically comes out within 3 months or so, maybe within 4 months of when they complete the network test. That doesn't mean that it takes 4 months, but if you remember, Night Rain's network test was February. It was like middle of February, and then the game came out at the end of May. So that was like 3.5 months after the network test. So that means that we could be looking at Duskbloods launching early December, mid-December, around Thanksgiving. Sometime around there is when I would guess, unless it's just going to launch like in a couple of weeks after the network test. So that it could always do that too. So, but From Software has a very predictable pattern when it comes to these things. So yeah, I'll be playing the network test. So that's kind of my announcement for games coming out soon. And then we are going to talk about laptops on this stream. We talked a little bit about them last week. But as you may have noticed, there is a poll that is up. It started before we went live. Which x86 laptop brand is your favorite? So that means that it is an x86. That means it's not Snapdragon. It's not Apple Silicon. So no M series, no Apple by that definition, and then no Snapdragon. So I basically put the 3 juggernauts, so HP, Lenovo, Dell, and then I put Framework in there because, as you can see, we're doing a show and tell. So I have the camera on. We're going to be looking at the Framework laptop here just to see how a modern x86 laptop that can be used for Windows or Linux, which is very rare to see a laptop where the manufacturer actually designed it for use with Linux. Typically, if you want to run Linux on a laptop, there are some compromises that you have to make most of the time with things like webcams or fingerprint readers, things like that, just not always working depending on the module, the hardware piece, the component that went into that laptop, and whether or not there's actually drivers for it in Linux. So For Framework has done a really good job. We're going to be looking at this. Then we're going to look at some of the other ones. So it's interesting. Currently, only 4 people voted, and I remember when I just started the stream, I was looking at the results, and 2 people had voted, and it was 50-50%. Since that time, 2 more people have voted, and it is still 50-50% split between Framework and Lenovo, which is very interesting. Very interesting for me to look at these results, knowing what I'm about to show as part of the show and tell. So anyway, let's go ahead and I don't know. What do you guys want to do? You guys want to discuss the gaming news, or do we want to talk about the laptops immediately, or do we want to talk about some of the news articles? So I do have a few news articles we can discuss pertaining to memory. So why memory performance is more important than ever in modern computing. Yeah, memory bandwidth and latency is becoming very, very important because AI is really driving the innovation there. And people, as much as people seem fatigued about hearing about AI, without the AI discussion, without AI, there would be no incentive to improve these things. Like, things would be moving at a much slower pace compared to the way they are right now because of all this AI stuff driving the tech companies, both software and hardware based companies, to further the innovation like never before in this area, which is very interesting because I was noticing we were hitting stagnation in a lot of areas in computing, and now that's not necessarily the case. There is still the challenge of not getting node shrinks anymore, not being able to rely on lots of node shrinks to get performance uplifts, but that means that there has to be alternatives. There has to be software optimization. There has to be different ways of thinking about how to do things like memory management and latency optimization through the pipelines of CPU architectures or memory subsystems and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that chip designers and engineers and also programmers, software engineers can do to better squeeze out more performance without necessarily relying on your traditional hardware generation uplift from a node shrink from someone like TSMC or Intel, for instance. So this article is basically talking about how you get more bandwidth. You can get more bandwidth by scaling up frequency, but then you get higher latency because it's harder. You basically have a trade-off effect where you can get more bandwidth, but then higher latency. But if you want lower latency, then you're kind of capped on the bandwidth. And most workloads up until AI, the bandwidth has proven to be more useful for most use cases. However, what I've noticed with a lot of these AI workloads, latency has become very important now because of the overall feel and response of how the agents behave when prompt processing or answering a query or having to create something, generative AI, all that kind of stuff. Latency is actually quite important for those things. So it's reopening the discussion on what to prioritize and how to look at memory addressing, whether we're talking about the locality of the data. Like, is it far away from the CPU? Can it be held in the cache, for example? Using gaming as an example, recently with the X3D CPUs, for instance, so the AMD X3D CPUs have allowed game applications to benefit tremendously from locality. Having the memory, having the resource needed for the game in the cache, which is literally right there in the CPU, rather than having to sit outside in RAM somewhere far away from the CPU. So that improves the latency for the game behavior. So your frame times and all that stuff improves. You get less things like micro stutter or pop in, and just a better overall experience. So that's one thing that has come up in the compute discussion now, is the discussion around memory. Obviously, I feel like there's a lot of people paying attention to RAM these days for obvious reasons, because it's such a it feels like it's a rare earth mineral at this point. It seems like gold in terms of how expensive it is and how hard it is to obtain these days. So if you already have a lot of DDR5, you are one of the lucky ones, because if you look at memory price, all you got to do is bookmark your favorite memory kit on newegg.com or Amazon or whatever, and check it every other week and look at what happens to the price. Because I've been tracking one memory kit since February, and back in March it was like $650. Then it became $800. Now it's $900. So memory is continuing to appreciate in price and become more expensive and harder to obtain. And I don't know when it's going to level off, but it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon, unfortunately, for people who like to build custom computers or build home lab servers or whatever. Especially if you need RDIMM. Like, oh boy, let's not even talk about RDIMM. We talked about RDIMM for server last time, and I almost fell out of my chair. So, yeah. CXMT grabbed 11.3% of DRAM growth in 2026, but analysts say China's momentum collapses to 6.9% by next year. Speaking of CXMT, CXMT is being sued, and a Samsung engineer is on trial for helping CXMT to advance DDR5. Oh, man. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. Something to slow it down. Well, I'm being facetious here. I guess that's the word. CXMT, we actually need more supply. So any sort of setback for a company like CXMT, that just means that the consumers are going to suffer more. Like, it's going to be prolonged. Prolong the suffering. Look at ECC UDIMM. But how often is ECC UDIMM actually used, though? Most people would just run regular UDIMM. If we're talking consumer platform, I don't really see the point of ECC UDIMM. Well, I mean, that's probably why it's so expensive, because there's demand for it, but it's even more niche, so it's like it's even lower supply, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm not interested in ECC UDIMM, that means I'm one person, but that means that there's less demand than the other two, like UDIMM, LPDDR5, all that other stuff. So there'll be less incentive to produce more ECC UDIMM, and hence the reason why the price will be astronomical. It's used by anyone who wants to build a server with an iGPU. Can't they just use a mini PC? Can't you just get like a mini PC? If you're going to use an iGPU, why do you need a full server? Like, why do you need something that can fit PCIe slots if you're just going to use the iGPU? I don't know. I don't understand what the use case is there. Speculation is that HBM yields are terrible, which is causing the price inflation to go even more out of control, since all the lines are basically being moved to HBM. Yeah, there was a good video essay. I forgot the YouTube channel that did it recently about SK Hynix. He talked about what was it? Asianometry, I think. He did a video essay recently on SK Hynix and how they came to be. And basically, yeah, they talked about HBM. A lot of the discussion was about HBM and how SK Hynix was the first to market with HBM. They got really good with it. The use case was originally for AMD's R9 Fury GPU, and it was kind of like a proof of concept more than anything else, because AMD never actually manufactured a lot of Fury GPUs because they were expensive. HBM was just very expensive, and it was for a consumer product, which obviously, if you're talking consumer product, you're talking like lower margin, and there wasn't really too much demand for it either. So then they did HBM2. Then they started making these chips for enterprise, like server class GPUs, and then the whole AI thing took off, and that's where we are now. So yeah, HBM, I've heard HBM4 is the thing that is having really terrible yields right now, because it's so new. But once that... See, the thing is with yields, that stuff always happens initially, but it always... Eventually, those problems go away. Like, eventually, it works itself out. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that. But it's... I mean, that's kind of how it is right now. Here's another memory article. So 3 G.Skill Trident Z5 Royal Neo RAM kits worth $717 in early 2025 were forgotten in a vacation home. The owner learns they now cost over $3,000 in total. Every time I look at this memory stuff, that's always like 4 figures. Every time the RAM is like 4 figures, and we're not talking like, oh, it's just over $1,000. No, we're talking like, okay, this thing is more than graphics cards. You know what I'm saying? Like, and graphics cards come with VRAM, and this is more than the graphics card. Like, every time we talk about RAM, it never ceases to amaze me. So the RAM kit's owner wanted to reclaim the purchased memory for a new PC build featuring a Ryzen 9 9950X3D. The post, okay. He took a screenshot of 3 G.Skill Trident Z5 Neo 8000 Megatransfers RAM kits that he plays side by side. The kits on the left and the right are 32GB versions, which the owner says he paid $215 for each. As for the one in the center, that's a 48 gig. Wait, why? What does he mean? There's like 2 kits. 48 gig kit operating at 8,000. That's the magic number. 8,000. That's the magic number. But he paid $287 for it. 48 gigs, 8,000. This is the magic gaming setup right here. This one. During the weekend, the Redditor dropped by his vacation home and intended to assemble a gaming PC. This is hilarious. This sounds so ridiculous. He dropped by his vacation home and intended to assemble a gaming PC featuring AMD's latest and greatest Ryzen 9 9950. Oh yeah, 9950X3. Yep, we've got one, just like The Verge. Yeah, we've got one, 9950X3D. And he would have had to fork over $1,000 plus. Well, now we don't have no $1,000 plus RAM. I don't have any G.Skill Trident Z5 Neo Royals sitting around. But at least I got a 9950X3D. I may not have the RAM, but I at least have the CPU. So I'm content with that. Thankfully, his bet paid off because where AI customers have snagged the available shipments, regular customers are left. So what exactly happened here? What did he do? He would have had to fork over $1,000 each for the Royals if he hadn't taken the leap of faith and purchased them sooner. Oh, because he decided to randomly buy them because he saw a bunch of GTR RAM videos talking about DDR5 8000 like almost 2 years ago now. Yeah, so it's like, thankfully his bet paid up. Okay, so yeah, there it is, man. Forgot I had put these in my vacation house for a build, buying a Lambo instead. Oh my goodness, look at that. Look at those royal... Look at that. These things look like jewelry. How do I zoom in? It doesn't even let me zoom in. All right, whatever. They look like jewelry. For real. This looks like a piece of jewelry. You know what I'm talking about? This looks like some kind of jewelry. This is RAM? Okay. So that was an interesting, that was an entertaining article, I guess. Like, all this stuff about RAM is just kind of funny. Okay, here's a different one. This is not related to RAM. So Intel Core Ultra 9 4950K points to new naming scheme for Nova Lake S desktop CPUs, alleged ES chip faster than all current generation chips. So that means it's faster than Arrow Lake. Because Arrow Lake is, you know, Arrow Lake is the thing. It's the current Intel CPU. So, and actually, How do they know? Okay, here it is. This is displaying kind of weird. Intel Core Ultra 4950K. When I see 4950K, I think of Haswell E. Is that right? No, that's not right. That's Ivy Bridge E. This is reminding me of Ivy Bridge E in like 2013. Okay, so the flagship Arrow Lake is called Core Ultra 9 285K. Yeah, this one right here. Core Ultra 9 285K. There are 3 digits in the convention, with 2 pointing to the Core Series 2 family and 85 pointing to the performance tier of the chip. The K represents the unlocked nature. Similarly, Intel Core Ultra 9 4950K starts with a family designation, which is Core Ultra Series 4, while the 950 represents the segment and perform. Oh, I see. Okay. I see what they're doing. They're adding another 0.
I took the plunge to build my third 5090 PC. Since I am already spending close to 7K, I decided to go for the 9850X3D despite still having the 7950X3D. MB is Unify X Max this time.
Oh man, if you're going with Unify X Max, that means you're gonna be doing like 48 gigs of DDR5 8000 or something. Because that's a 2DIMM motherboard. That's MSI's overclocker's motherboard. That's like the equivalent of the ASRock OCF, the Taichi OCF, or the ROG Apex, or the Gigabyte Aorus Tachyon. That's the type of motherboard that you have. The Unify X Max from MSI that's their overclocker's competition board. That's the one that's supposed to have the pot, the LN2. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what that motherboard is. So you've got one of those motherboards now. So that's interesting. That's the type of motherboard that I would like. The memory kit that we were talking about earlier, actually. Something like this 48 gig DDR5 8000 kit. Like this right here. Trident Z5 Royal Neo 8000. Because you're only going to be running 2 sticks. So you're going to be capped at like 48 gigs. 48 gig 8000. That's you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and 2DIMM is easier to run higher speed with lower latency. So that would be the ideal setup for that. So yeah, that's it's interesting you decided to go and get that when you had the 750X3D. So what are you going to do with the 750X3D? Are you going to be like me and just kind of like have it just hang out on a table somewhere? Just like you're just having like an extra CPU just sitting around in its original packaging or something? Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. You already spent like 7K, right? So it's like RAM right now is so stupidly expensive that it doesn't really make sense to buy any RAM. So if you have the extra RAM already, then you don't need to buy any RAM. I'm just saying, like, when I think of a 2DIMM motherboard like the Unify, that immediately to me basically implies high speed memory because it's 2 sticks. So the fastest one you want to go is single rank with the dual channel setup. So single rank is going to cap out at 48 gigabytes. You're going to do 2 24 gigabyte sticks for a total of 48. Now you can do 64. In fact, you could even do 128 with 2 64 gigabyte DIMMs. Now that's not going to go very fast. You know, you're going to be doing like your typical DDR5 6000 or 6400 with those type of kits. But and the price of those things, I don't even want to know what that 128 gig, you know, dual 64 gig kit would even cost at this point. Because I know these are already expensive. Like this is already like almost $1,000 right now. Like this memory kit, like just like what the article said. So, you have both sets already? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's how you would do it. You put the faster kit on your 2-DIMM motherboard. The slower kit goes on the 4-DIMM motherboard. Yeah. And, well, also keep in mind, so you're doing your other PC. No, actually, no, because you have 3 now. Yeah, never mind. Never mind, because your Ryzen 9 is on the Ace, right? On the X670 Ace. So your second PC is the Carbon, your third PC is now the Unify. So yeah, that's what I would do. 64 gigabytes, 6,000 on the Carbon, and 48 gigabytes, 8,000 on the Unify. Yeah, you can double check the, I mean, we can do that right now, even. We can go look. X870 Unify X Max. We can go look at the QVL list. But I can tell you right now, let's move this out of the way. We'll come back to that. We can go and look at compatibility, memory, Ryzen 9000. Oh, support speed. So they go, so 84. So you'd want to filter by, is there a way to filter by vendor? Does this not work? Oh, g.skill. How come they don't filter it correctly? This doesn't seem to work. Okay, here it is, G-skill. So, this is a 32. Or is it? Yeah, this is 32, this is 32, this is 48, 48. So these are 48 gigabyte kits that run at 8,000. So something like this. Is this Royal White? I think this is Trident Z5 Royal White. This is Trident Z5. I don't know what the K is. But you get the idea. That the Unify can handle those type of speeds. 9950X3D has 96 gig. Yeah, but we're talking about a 2-DIMM motherboard. You just want some Chinese memory? You could probably get some if you go to Hong Kong or Shanghai. You could probably get some over there. I don't think you can find them online. I mean, unless they somehow end up in like some. We'll see the pre-builds. System builders outside of the big 3 don't really sell pre-builds with CXMT, as far as I know. At least not globally, not outside of the Asian market. Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody like Gamers Nexus forgot to get CXMT RAM the last time they were in Asia. Man, because they were over there for a while. They were doing like a lot of investigative journalism and stuff. Man, those guys should have grabbed some CXMT while they were over there. They forgot. Steve forgot about it because they went and they bought this one random GPU. They were doing like some GPU stuff. Man, they should have bought some CXMT memory to show that off. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's only like DDR5 6000 or whatever. Doesn't really matter. I just want to see what it looks like. Like the heat spares. The chips are not going to look that different from all the other stuff. But I mean, look at all this. Look at all this SK Hynix. Look at all this SK Hynix. All SK Hynix. Oh, here's a Samsung. DDR5 6000. Dual rank. Yeah, you'll find Samsung and Micron on the big, like, thick memory kits. Like, this is a 64 gig. This is a 64 gig kit. You know how I can tell? 32 gig DIMM, dual rank. That means 64 gigs. Samsung. Uh-oh. Samsung M-Die. Uh-oh. 1.4 dual. What is this? 128 gig? Oh, no, I'm reading this wrong. Okay, hold on. I'm completely wrong. No, I'm reading it wrong. This is the total size. Yeah. So you're going to want to look for 48. 8,000. or so. I think that's what this is saying. I don't know. I don't think that was a one. Otherwise, that would have been a 128. No, I was right. I was right the first time. It says dual. Dual cannot be 32 total. One stick is 32. Dual, that means there's two. This is two. 32 gig times two. So this is definitely a 64 gig kit, which means that Samsung one was a 128 gig kit. This is a 128 gig kit, yeah. 64 gig dual rank, 6000 on a Samsung M die, 64 gig quad X because they're doing the half ranks and stuff. So yeah, this is a 128 gigabyte memory kit. That must be so expensive. Here's another one, Samsung M die. This is a Flare X5. Flare X5. All right, we're gonna close the poll. We got 20 votes now, and the poll's been up for 40 minutes. So if you haven't voted, there's a poll up. If you just joined within the last 2 minutes, cast your vote for your favorite x86 laptop brand. We're gonna switch to talking about laptops in a little bit here. I'm gonna close it out in like a minute. Samsung will not use CXMT. Samsung will not use CXMT because CXMT is a competitor of Samsung. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're competitors. That's like saying Samsung is gonna use Micron to manufacture. Like, no, it's different. Samsung won't use CXMT. Those are competitors. All right, I'm gonna close the poll. 22 votes. All right, here we go. The results are in. All right, for the favorite brand of x86, Lenovo got 64% of the vote. Framework came in second place despite their small size as a startup company. HP got a distant third place, although to be fair, Framework was a distant second from Lenovo. Lenovo had 64%, Framework was 23%, so Lenovo has almost 2/3 of the votes. So they win by a landslide. Framework had almost 1/4 of the votes, so they got over a fifth, but not quite 1/4, so that 23%. And then HP has a distant third place at 8%, and Dell coming in last at 5%. There is no Apple option because you didn't read the question. The question, read the question. We're not talking about laptops from a decade ago. You're voting for your favorite thing you will never buy and consider dead. But yeah, just to close off on this discussion about the motherboard stuff. So if you have a 2-DIMM motherboard like this, so the Unify X has 2 DIMM slots. That means that there is less memory trace complexity, and that means EMF is reduced because you don't have as many random copper wires having to run through all this stuff, nor are you having to daisy chain a whole second DIMM off of a channel. So that means that this is going to naturally be able to run higher memory speeds much easier than a 4-DIMM motherboard, if that makes sense. I think most enthusiasts already know this, but I'm just reiterating that because that's the reason why. Because when I read the super chat and it was like, oh, Unify X, and I'm thinking, Unify X, that automatically means that's like prime for like DDR5 8000. You know what I'm saying? Or like in the future, if this motherboard can support CUDIMM or clock redriver based DIMMs, QDIMMs, as I say, this could support that. I don't see why it wouldn't without a BIOS update in the future. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the microcode for BIOSes for firmware needs some specific changes physically to make it support QDIMM. I don't see why, because my understanding is QDIMM is strictly a difference in the memory controller. The memory controller has to be able to physically communicate with the clock redriver module on the actual DIMMs, and that's what makes it work. So if that doesn't exist on the memory controller, like for instance Zen 5 and Raptor Lake, they don't have the ability to communicate with the clock redriver the way Arrow Lake can. That's the reason why CUDIMM doesn't work on those older CPUs, nor does it work on Zen 5. But it will work on Zen 6, and it currently works on Arrow Lake. So, I don't know. I kind of think something like this could be a really good motherboard. Who knows? For running really high spec, high speed CUDIMMs in the future. However, I don't want to think of how much that RAM is going to cost, because we looked at CUDIMMs, and the starting price, like the last time we looked at it on the channel, it was like $955 at Micro Center for like a 48 gigabyte kit of DDR5 8400. So, it's very pricey. All right, so let me see what else we got on this motherboard. So it has 5 gig LAN. It being that overclocker board, it's going to have PS/2 support. There's the Thunderbolt 4s. You got the 10 gig USB-C on there. You got that MSI Smart button. MSI is still doing a good amount of USB Type A. And they got an HDMI on there. If you're basically just doing overclocking, but most people that are overclocking aren't gonna run the integrated GPU for some kind of overclocking competition. But they do have an integrated HDMI, so you can drive three. You can easily drive 3 monitors off of this motherboard, off of integrated graphics alone. You'd have one on HDMI, and you'd have one of each on these Thunderbolt 4 ports on the back here. They said USB 4. USB 4, they got the DisplayPort symbol. So this is DisplayPort alt mode out of here, out of USB 4, aka Thunderbolt 3/4. So, really good stuff here. Oh, it's got one of these. Oh, it's got the remote control. Wait, it's got a remote control with the postcode on it? Wait, I didn't know this thing came with a remote that has a postcode. It's got like a postcode debug display on the remote control. This is actually quite interesting. I didn't know the Unify had this stuff. So that means there must be some kind of header over here that you plug it into, so you can basically read the... Oh, I think I know why they do that. Because if you have like a big LN2 pot on this thing, you can't always see, depending on where the board is mounted and how the pot is orientated, you can't see the postcode debug here. So that gives you a remote display for that. That's cool. And then you have like the plus and minus for, I think those are 10 megahertz increments. I don't know exactly how much those plus or minus switches do in terms of the clock, the manual clock tuning. But yeah, this is why I said earlier this is an overclocker's motherboard, because it has the tools. So Unify X is the MSI overclocker board. Tachyon is the Gigabyte one. Apex is the Asus one, and Taichi OCF is the ASRock one. Okay. I think that covered the memory stuff. Let's discuss... Hold on, what else is it we got here? There's one more... Well, we'll come back to the gaming later. We'll talk about gaming at the end. We usually cover gaming stuff at the end of the stream, because I think most people that tune into Tech Thursdays are more interested in the tech content rather than the gaming content. So we'll leave the gaming stuff for the end. So what I wanted to do here, it's funny that the poll, we have 64% of you voted, or at least out of the 22 people that voted for Lenovo. Now, I find that interesting, because we're going to do a little bit of some show and tell here. So I have the camera set up, and we don't always do show and tell. We do show and tell on this channel maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. And we probably average maybe two to 3 live PC build live streams. So I have here, you guys can see this logo. If you're not familiar with this brand, this is a Framework Laptop 16. So this is the 16-inch. Let me see if I can get this further out. so we can get a better view of it. So this is the Framework Laptop 16. This has been my daily driver now for basically since May. So I've been using it for a couple of months now. Pretty solid, really good keyboard. There's like minimal flex. The keys are not like clicky, but they're not mushy, if that makes sense. They're a little bit more mushy compared to what you would get on the ThinkPad. So the way I can describe this, now there's a couple of assumptions I'm making with what I'm going to say here. I'm assuming that those of you watching this live stream may or may not have used a Mac, or maybe you use a Mac. I know at least one of you do use a Mac. Now, the keyboard quality of this, I'm someone who has used a Mac. Now, I've never owned a Mac, but I have typed on a Mac before, like a MacBook Pro. So I know how a MacBook Pro laptop feels. And what I can tell you guys is the Framework Laptop 16, this laptop has more key travel than a MacBook Pro. But the key press feels soft and responsive the way it feels on a MacBook Pro. So think of it like having a Mac keyboard, but the keys have ever so slightly more travel in them to bottom out versus on the Mac. So if you like that, where it requires a little bit more typing force to bottom out the key, as opposed to like on a Mac laptop, you're probably going to like this more. Now, the touchpad is not haptic. It's your typical, you know, it's not Mylar. It's I think it's like I'm not sure what surface it is. It's like a glass with a coating on it, but it's not haptic. So, I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And then maybe I should get a better lighting in here. I don't know. Let me see. That's not plugged in, so I don't have a light. All right, never mind. So unfortunately, this is the lighting that I've got. I'll try to move this up a bit without making this fall over. So here, we'll open it up a little bit. Actually, I thought I had a light. Hold on. I don't know if that helps or if that makes it worse, because that kind of blows out the... Hold on. Maybe that's better. Okay, well now you can see any kind of like grease, oil marks from using the laptop. Okay, well that kind of makes it more realistic. So this is the laptop without the numeric keypad. So the nice thing about it is it's customizable. You can do stuff on this that you can't do on any of the other laptops. For example, if I want a numeric keypad, I can put a numeric keypad here and I can move this over. If I wanted to, I could even put the numeric keypad on the left side and have the keyboard right aligned. Like, you can actually do that with this laptop. You cannot do that with a MacBook, nor can you do it with any other Windows or Linux-based laptop. So you can even move the position of the touchpad because it has these spacers that you can basically shift around. Like, for example, if you have the numeric keypad here, you can move this and make it slightly more to the left so that your palm is less likely to run into this if you're typing and your right arm is like having to reach across it more often because you have a touchpad over here. It has the fingerprint reader and the start button, two in one combo there. So very nice. And the nice thing about the fingerprint reader on this laptop is that it works with Linux out of the box. Fedora workstation, Ubuntu, Kubuntu, well, I don't know about Kubuntu, but Ubuntu, Fedora, Bazzite, Mint, and there's like another one, I think Kashi maybe. One of the other ones recently has out-of-the-box support for the fingerprint reader. Now, there's a bunch of other ones like Arch that can also use the fingerprint reader, but it requires manual setup using the CLI or the terminal. So that is a very nice thing to see on a laptop that's marketed to Linux users. I want to emphasize this. This laptop was designed for use with the Linux kernel. That doesn't mean you can't use it with Windows if you prefer to use Windows. It totally works with Windows the same way every other laptop that runs x86 has always worked with Windows. So switchable graphics like Optimus, all that stuff from NVIDIA, or if you're doing like AMD plus an AMD discrete GPU, you can do that as well. All that works seamlessly in Windows. And then if it's AMD plus AMD, also it is switchable graphics in Linux, and it all works seamlessly. Speaking of the modular capabilities, you can see on the back here, it has an expansion bay at the back, kind of like the PlayStation 2 back in the day. You can actually remove this shell, and that actually houses the graphics card. So there's a discrete graphics card in this laptop, just like a gaming laptop. In fact, this is one of the only AMD Advantage laptops that still exists on the market. Like, I don't know what happened to AMD Advantage. AMD Advantage laptops are basically almost all extinct. This is one of the rare few ones that you can still get today, brand new, that has an AMD Radeon discrete graphics card plus the integrated Radeon 890M, which is still a very competitive integrated graphics module with the CPU. So in terms of modularity, you know, it's got this like latch thing here. You can unlock it. Then you can take these out and swap these out. So this one, you can see this is a 3.5 millimeter audio. It's a microphone and line out combo jack. All of the modules are USB-C based, and they just go in like that, and then you can lock it into place so they can't come out anymore. It supports USB 4 on this one and the one at the back over here on the opposite end. So you got your dual Thunderbolt 4, just like basically every other Windows laptop that's come out in the last like 3 years. So this has been my daily driver. I've been using Fedora Workstation 44 on it for about, 3 months now. And I've had like no problems other than the fact that Hibernate doesn't work with secure boot in Linux, which is the biggest annoying thing that I've run into on Linux. But that's more of a Linux problem rather than a framework problem. I did dual boot Windows 11 on here just to see how it behaves with Windows, and suspend to RAM and then Hibernate, or going from standby to Hibernate. All that stuff works totally fine, perfectly. So your suspend and resume, all that stuff is perfect on the framework. The firmware is fantastic. The support for external docking stations works really, really good. What is the screen size? Oh, the screen is a 16-inch. So this is a 16-inch IPS panel. You can see right there. So it is a matte screen. Now, obviously, you can see a little bit of reflection because we got a really bright light shining on it, but it is a matte screen. It is 2560 by 1600. So that is what do they call that? WUXG. I forget what it's called. It's basically 1600p. So 16 by 10 aspect ratio matte screen, IPS screen, 165 hertz with variable refresh. I think the refresh range is from like 30 hertz, or maybe it's 48 hertz. I forget what the low end is, but it's from like 48 or 30 up to 165 hertz variable refresh. So this is a 165 hertz IPS panel. You guys know me. I don't do OLED screens on laptops. I'll never buy a laptop with an OLED screen. It has to be an IPS screen because I always go for 15% or lower screen brightness for maximum battery life. So I don't do I never run the laptop screen at 100% brightness unless I'm playing like a game and I'm like connected to a wall outlet. But anyway, this is the main primary laptop that I've been using. Very impressed with it because I'm someone who, if you guys notice, we're about to look at some other laptops. You guys might have noticed if you're watching the channel for a while, I am a Lenovo person. This is a ThinkPad. This is a modern ThinkPad. This is another modern ThinkPad. And this is yet another modern ThinkPad. So I am definitely a Lenovo person. When I was looking at the results, when you guys were voting, and I was like, oh, Lenovo's got 64% of the vote and Framework's got 23%. Well, isn't this going to be awkward? Because the only laptops that I'm going to show off are all Lenovo laptops, and with one exception being the Framework Laptop 16. So I have here, this is a 14-inch Framework ThinkPad. This is a ThinkPad T14S. This is an Ultrabook. 14-inch, rock solid. I could drop this thing and not worry about it. Plastic body. I love that plastic body. No metal. I don't have to worry about scratches, because if it gets scratched, I can just rub it enough and it'll just buff it out. If you scratch aluminum, like if you drop your Mac and you scratch that corner up real good, you're not going to be able to fix that. There's no coming back from that. This thing, drop it, whatever, who cares? It's fine. Just rub it off. It's a rubberized texture. Nice matte finish, black matte finish. You got the little track point. Best keyboard ever. This is the best keyboard ever. This thing is better than Mac, and it's better than Framework in terms of the typing experience. Nothing, no laptop can beat or match the ThinkPad typing experience. The only thing that's better than a ThinkPad keyboard is, wait for it, an older Lenovo ThinkPad keyboard. This is my previous workstation laptop. This is the even better keyboard. 1.8 millimeter key travel. 1.8 millimeter key travel. This is the final laptop. It has the old fingerprint reader, the old one, because you have your power button up here, and then they moved to that power button plus fingerprint combo. This is the old fingerprint reader. This is the traditional. This is a laptop from 2022. This has 1.8 millimeter key travel and DDR5 SODIMM. Yes, DDR5 SODIMM with the legendary replaceable, because you can see I can easily pull this out. It's fully detachable from the chassis. There's those click buttons. You got that AMD Ryzen 7 6850H. So this is the very first DDR5 based ThinkPad. This is a ThinkPad P15 Gen 3, I believe. I think it's a Gen 3. There's videos on the YouTube channel featuring this laptop. I've had this laptop for, I think, I'm pretty sure 4 years. I think I got it in 2022. So this is a 2022 laptop, just for reference. And it's the last laptop to feature the 16:9 4K screen. 4K IPS, 100% sRGB, everything good, true 4K. It's not that 16:10. A lot of people, myself included, really like 16:10, that taller aspect ratio, because that's the golden ratio. But this is your typical 16:9. This is the very last Lenovo laptop to feature 16:9 on a true 4K panel. IPS, so none of that trashy OLED. So no PWM flickering at like 0% brightness, if you know what I'm saying. And then you got 1.8 millimeter key travel. So it's the last laptop to have 16:9, legendary keyboard from Lenovo, plus DDR5 SODIMM. So I'm not getting rid of this thing anytime soon. This thing is like a collector's item. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like this is the OG in terms of the keyboard. It even has it's got like the ThinkPad logo like this. You know, before they started going with this blacked out style, where you can barely see the wording. ThinkPad style. So we've got this. The only thing better than this, so we go one step further back. Actually, that's the same. So someone was asking about the Legendary. All right. So let's go further back. Let's take this guy out of here. We've got some more ThinkPads here. So let's go back in time. Here we go. Now we're going so far back, we got the old Lenovo logo. ThinkPad. But this one has the magnesium hinges. This one has the removable battery. You know what I'm saying? So this one's got removable battery. This one has the lock. The lock. You gotta unlock it. There it is. There it is. The blue enter key, the return key from IBM. The Legendary keyboard. That sounds so satisfying. Legendary ThinkPad keyboard. There it is. The OG. This is the predecessor to the P series. This is the Legendary ThinkPad W520. The W520. Fingerprint sensor, old school fingerprint sensor. This one works with Linux kernels because this OEM fingerprint, this is the weird fingerprint where you gotta slide your finger over. You gotta slide that finger down here. You gotta slide it across. This one works with Linux. Yeah, this is the good one. This is the tank. The tank. I'm literally slamming my fist on the keyboard, and it is legendary rock solid quality. They don't make any laptop today with quality like this. This is in a whole different league. You got your buttons for the track point. You even have click buttons. Physical click buttons for the touchpad. Physical click buttons for the touchpad. Calibration sensor, so you can calibrate the display. Super tough. Super tough. Like knocking on a door, man. Knocking on a door. And nothing. Rock solid. I can grab it. I can grab it by the hinge. I can grab it by the screen. I'm literally flexing, lifting it up. Lifting it up with my hand. I'm lifting it up with my hand. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, you can't do that with a Mac. You can't do that with a Mac. Oh, look what I can do. Oh, look, and it still works. Legendary. They don't make them like this anymore. Sandy Bridge. Intel 2nd generation i7. Sandy Bridge. The i7. 2740 HQ or something. Whatever it was, it's a Sandy Bridge 2nd gen from the year late 2011. I've had this laptop since 2011. So think about that. 15-year-old laptop. Removable battery. Removable battery. 9-cell. It still works. It still has like 70% of the original battery capacity. That thing's a tank. But we can go even further back. We can go even further back. As good as that thing is, it can't beat IBM. It can't beat IBM. Oh man, this thing's beat up. You can see how beat up the rubber on this is. This thing looks like it came out of a battle zone. Look at that. Look at that messed up top cover. Look at that rubber top cover, all scraped up, scratched up nice and good. Imagine if this was aluminum. If this was aluminum, it's over. But because this is like a rubber, It's like a rubber finish. I can just kind of like smooth it out. If I just like, rub this over here, I can basically smooth all this and get rid of all these little scratches. It's fixable. It's like self-healing. They don't make stuff like this anymore. Rubber. It's like a rubberized texture. This is the OG. This is the one that people remember. The era of IBM. This is the legendary ThinkPad T500. The T500. No, nothing today is self-healing. This is it. This is it. Intel Core 2 Duo. Core 2 Duo. Intel Penryn Core 2 Duo from like 2008, 2009. This is a PS3 era workstation laptop. Fingerprint sensor from 2008. Still works with Linux. Still works with the Linux kernel, despite it being from 2008. Think about that. This keyboard is even more legendary than the one I just showed you guys. Because this is, despite it saying Lenovo, because it does have the Lenovo logo over here on the left, this is the IBM keyboard. This is the true IBM ThinkPad keyboard. So the difference between this one and the one I just showed you guys like a minute ago, even though they look very similar, this one has zero flex. Zero flex. I can push hard on this thing and it's not even moving. It's like not even flexing. There's zero flex. It's got that legendary, I think it's 1.8 or 2 millimeter key travel. It's like typing on a full desktop keyboard. Full desktop keyboard. This is it. 15.4 inch. 16W. The screen resolution on this thing is WSXGA plus. 1680 by 1050. So not quite 1080p, but it is that taller 16 by 10, which is interesting because laptops in the late 2000s, like this one, they came with 16 by 10 aspect ratio screens, typically 1680 by 1050 or 1920 by 1200 if you went for the super high resolution screens, because those things were technically higher resolution than 1080p. And this was an era when 1080p was like brand new. So if you think about it, it's like we've come full circle now, because we went from this to 16 by 9 from the year 2011 or so, 2010, 2011. I think 2010 was when 16 by 9 started going into laptops. And I remember I never liked 16 by 9 on laptops. I always preferred the taller 16 by 10 for productivity reasons. You could see more vertical resolution than the one that was more like meant for watching movies and stuff. So 16 by 9 went from like 2010 all the way to around, like the pandemic, essentially. So basically all of last decade was basically 16 by 9 aspect ratio screens for laptops. And now this decade, we've seen the reemergence of this 16 by 10. And largely Apple, as far as I remember, Apple never really left, maybe for a short while, Apple went 16 by 9. But I remember Apple kind of always was 16 by 10 when everyone else was going 16 by 9. Like all the Windows laptops were all 16 by 9. Like the one that I showed you guys, this one. So this other one, this W520, the legendary Sandy Bridge ThinkPad with a really nice keyboard. This one is 16 by 9. This is a 1920 by 1080. Yeah, this is a 1080p laptop from 2011. Think about that. A 15-year-old laptop with a 1080p screen. And I think this is an IP. It's either IPS or This one I think is IPS. The other one, the older one, this one is this is CCFL backlight. So this is a TN panel. TN panel on this one. So let me just kind of run through this real quick for you guys. So it's funny because we're talking about, like, most people voted for Lenovo, but I wonder if people even know the history, because when I think of Lenovo, I don't think of like IdeaPad and Legion and all the gimmicky, like, low end stuff. No, I think of, you know, this type of stuff. So let's start with my very first ThinkPad, which is this one. So T500. This is still an IBM laptop. This is an IBM device. But unfortunately for me, my very first ThinkPad, which is this one, which is actually my second. This is either my second laptop. This is my second laptop. My very first laptop when I was a kid was like a hand-me-down Toshiba Satellite. But this is like the first laptop that I got for myself, like way back in the day. And this to me was always interesting, because I remember other kids were like, man, your laptop looks weird. Your laptop looks like boring. It looks like some kind of, like, you're from like the NASA space shuttle or something, you know? It doesn't look like a cool laptop. So no one thought my laptop was cool, but I knew this thing was special. It was a tank. You could spill water on it, and the water would literally drain out the bottom while the laptop is on. It would still work. So fingerprint reader, you know, it doesn't have a backlit keyboard. Instead, it has a flashlight near the webcam that when you turn what would have been the backlight keyboard, it will shine a flashlight down. It'll illuminate the palm rest and the keys from a flashlight built in way up in the top there. There's a flashlight right in there. And you can turn it on, function spacebar, just like to turn on a backlight keyboard. So they had all the tools back then. This thing came with Windows 7. My very first laptop was Windows 7. 16 by 10, 1680 by 1050 Intel Core 2 Duo, 8 gigs of DDR3. This is 8 gigs of DDR3 SODIMM. So I've got DDR3 in here, 8 gigs total. So that's 2 times 4. I think it's DDR3 1066 is what's in here. 2 cores, no hyperthreading. So it's 2 cores, 2 threads. Intel Core 2 Duo. Legendary hinge. I can grab it. I can pick it up and hold it by the top of it. Like I'm literally just holding it up, man. I'm literally just holding it up. Look at that. I can like twist it. No flex. Look at that. I could try to like literally physically bend the screen. I could try to bend it. I can't even, it doesn't even warp. It doesn't even warp. Rock solid. Latches to hold it shut. That's it. One of the oldest videos on this YouTube channel is of me with a really poor quality, like 360p or 480p, grainy video of me doing like a review of this laptop. This very laptop from like 2010. Back in the day. Back in the day. All right, then when I was doing like intern work, the company that I was doing an intern work for back in the day, they gave me this. This is a ThinkPad T400. This is basically the exact same laptop as that other one, except this is a 14-inch. So this is 14-inch. This has a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. You can see it's a smaller laptop. it still has the big, gigantic battery. Removable battery. Look at that battery. 9-cell battery. 84, I think it was 84, 85 watt hours from a laptop from like 2010. But I liked this one so much. And they were going to have to, they were telling me like, you got to get rid of it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to get rid of it. They're like, okay, it's kind of old. So we'll re-image it and then you can have it. And that's how I got this laptop. This laptop actually was really old because it's got like, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's got the Intel Centrino sticker. And it's got a Lenovo Enhanced Experience and a Windows 7 sticker. But this laptop has a Intel Core 2 Duo, similar to the other one. It's a slightly different variant of the Intel Core 2 Duo. Still has the fingerprint reader. This one, being a 14-inch, the screen is 16. Hold on, what was the screen? 1440. 1440 by 900. I think that's the resolution. 1440 by 900 on a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. Still has a little nub in there. Still has the light that shines down on the keyboard. HP copied a bunch of features from this with their Elite books from about 14 years ago. Just worse built. Oh, I remember the Elite books. I actually kind of liked the look of the Elite books in this time period. From like, you know, like early 2010s. Yeah. I remember, man. Those did look good. The place where I was interning, when I was using this, I think my supervisor at the time, he had an HP Elite book. And he could tell that I really like this ThinkPad laptop, and he was like showing me the difference of mine, like this thing and his. But of course, his was like a new one. His had like I guess it had like an Intel i7 something, and whereas mine still had the Intel Core 2 Duo. You know, mine had the like much older architecture in there, or something like that. But yeah, one thing I really like about these is how what they have the latch. See this thing here? There's a hook. And there's a hook. The hooks, they go in and they hold it shut. They hold it shut so you can't open it. The idea of this one finger open, that's when reviewers try to say, oh, you gotta do the one finger open. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever, like, why would you grade a laptop on the one finger open? Oh yeah? If I do the latch, oh look, I can do the one finger open. Well, almost. But these hinges are so strong and so thick that they can almost like lift the laptop up. But yeah, you can kind of open it with one hand. Despite how heavy this is, it's still like the hinge is so strong that it tries to, you can see it kind of like lifting up the body slightly because it's so strong. Because these hinges are so rock solid. They don't wobble. They don't wobble, man. Like, they wobble. This wobbles a tiny bit. A tiny bit, but considering it's like, what, 16 years old? That's pretty impressive. All right, that was my second one. The third one I already showed you guys. So that was this is a T400. And yes, that is a PlayStation 3 Slim, and that is a Nintendo Wii. Okay, the third one is this one. We showed this one earlier. This is my Sandy Bridge ThinkPad. This is the W520. W520. All these ThinkPads have matte screens. None of them have reflective screens. Even though I'm showing, it looks like it's a reflective, it's not. It's a matte screen. This is totally a matte screen. If this was reflective, you would literally see the tripod way more clearly than how it's showing up here. But yeah, this is an i7 Sandy Bridge. I believe it's a 27 or 2640 HQ or 2740 HQ or something. It's a Sandy Bridge. So it's second gen Intel i7, you know, Intel inside. It's got the click buttons, just like the one. It's got fingerprint reader. It's got the calibrator for the monitor screen. Just overall, rock solid. Although I will say, this one is the last ThinkPad to include the old IBM style keyboard. W520 was where it ended. So if you guys look, we got a blue enter key. This keyboard, it ended with the W520 and the Sandy Bridge laptops. Once they moved to Ivy Bridge, 3rd gen i7s and i5s, they went with the chiclet style keyboard that you see on all of the current Lenovo laptops. So it ended with the 2011 model. Once they went to 2012, they started doing the newer keyboard, which they've never really deviated from that one until recently. They started reducing the key travel. All right, so that was W520. And then we got the thick boy. Where's the thick boy? This one. Oh yeah, this one. This is the heavy one. Okay, so up until this point, my laptop, I had used the T500, the T400. So those are the T series. Those are the most iconic ThinkPads. T series is the one that most people think of when they think of ThinkPad. But with the W520 is a W series. W stands for workstation. So this is supposed to be the workstation class laptops. But with sometime in the middle, I think it was around 2015, 2016, probably 2016, Lenovo, when they went from, I'm trying to remember, I think they went from DDR3. When they transitioned from DDR3 to DDR4, they introduced the P series. So they replaced the P series, or they replaced the W series, the workstation series, with the performance series, or the P series. This is one of the first P series ThinkPads. So this is the ThinkPad P51 with a P50 keyboard, because the P50 keyboard is the last, well, it's not the last, but it's one of the really, really good ThinkPad keyboards where it doesn't look like the IBM keyboard. It doesn't have the blue enter key. It has this chiclet shape, island style key layout. But the key travel is still 1.8 millimeter. There's no flex. I could literally slamming on it, and there's no flex at all. So it still has that legendary typing experience that you got on the older IBM ThinkPads, while also maintaining things like the click buttons. I really wish Lenovo never got rid of these. This is the last ThinkPad to feature the iconic physical click buttons. The left click, the center click, and the right click for the touchpad. After this, they got rid of these physical buttons, and everything was all touchpad based. So I really like these. The haptic touchpad cannot compete with physical click buttons. These things are just so good. So this is an Intel, in here is an Intel Core i7 Kaby Lake 7700 HQ. Now you could get P series like this with Intel Xeon mobile workstation CPUs. So I never could pay that much for a Xeon ThinkPad, so, and I never understood the idea. I mean, I kind of understood the idea of using, a desktop replacement, because why would I have this if I didn't believe in desktop replacements? But Xeon in a laptop just kind of seemed kind of dumb to me, so I never bothered with that type of CPU. So this one has the i7 7700 HQ in it. It's good. It's quad core. This is the traditional Intel quad core 8 thread. So this is around that time where, Intel would just release, quad core after quad core after quad core every year. My W520 was a quad core Sandy Bridge. This P51 was a 7th gen i7 Kaby Lake quad core. a thread. So, you know, it's the same kind of thing. But this is still faster than the Sandy Bridge. The one thing about it is, notice, it is a 16-inch, 16 by 9, 10 or 12, no, yeah, 1080p. 1080p, 16 by 9. There's the webcam. This one has the backlit keyboard, but notice now the numpad. The numeric keypad is now here. And not a lot of people like this. This is kind of a controversial thing. Some people don't like it because, okay, here you have a giant fingerprint reader right here, but it's like, hey, everything is kind of like left aligned. The touchpad is over to the left. Some people don't like that. That's where the framework is really nice, though, because the framework that I have can duplicate this layout and have the touchpad left aligned, have the numeric keypad there. But if I don't want that, I can remove it. I can center align the keyboard. I can center align the touchpad, and it's perfect that way. So that's the nice thing about the framework. But the ThinkPad is still, by and large, the industry standard for a Windows laptop. Like, if you want a first-class Windows laptop experience, you can't really go wrong with the Lenovo ThinkPad. Even today, even by today, because a lot of ThinkPad people, like a lot of fans of the ThinkPad brand, like myself, they tend to believe that the ThinkPads have gotten worse over the years. Like, the keyboard doesn't have as much travel in it. This is a 1.8 millimeter. Today, Lenovo keyboards only do 1.5 millimeter at best, you know, on the really good ones. So there's no more physical buttons. There's no more LEDs that indicate like hard drive activity and stuff like that. So they got rid of a lot of things that a lot of ThinkPad enthusiasts have been complaining about, them missing those things for a long time. But yeah, this laptop is interesting because it has a bunch of ports on the back. So it's got like a whole bunch of ports on the back. It has Thunderbolt 3. It has RJ45 gigabit Ethernet. It's got like dual USB Type A. You have the power plug. You have HDMI. You have the docking station connector, because Lenovo had those really good docking stations for the ThinkPads. You have dual exhaust. This has a removable battery. So this is one of the last ThinkPads to feature a removable battery. So you can see physical battery can be removed, easily to replace. Doesn't get any easier than that. You can remove this section here on the D cover to upgrade the RAM. Now this laptop, it being a workstation replacement, literally has 4 DIMM slots. Yeah, 4 DIMM slots. 2 of the memory sticks go under the keyboard, and the other 2 are down here on the bottom, like in here somewhere. So, and then it can do 3, you can do dual M.2 drives, so dual PCI Gen 3 NVMe, plus a 2.5 millimeter SATA SSD or a spindle drive. So you can run like 3 drives in here. So this is definitely, for its time, you can tell this is serious business in terms of a laptop. This ain't no, you know, ghetto Black Friday special. This thing is like a super high-end workstation from back in like 2017. This is the laptop that I used when I lived in Japan back in like 2018, for reference, for those wondering. So yeah, I could get rid of this one. This is one that's kind of heavy, but in terms of, I'm gotten so used to just hoarding these things now, because this one's got those legendary click buttons, plus this one has the fingerprint reader that doesn't work with Linux, unfortunately, because I tried to get the fingerprint reader working on Linux. I couldn't get it to work, and it's weird because out of all my old ThinkPads, this is the one that benefits the most from installing Linux on it. Currently, this laptop is running OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and because that one has the NVIDIA drivers for Maxwell, because this has a professional Quadro NVIDIA M2000 or M2200 or something. I forget the model number, but it is a Quadro Maxwell. So it's basically like a GTX 960M in a laptop. So that's kind of what's in here. So it's got pretty high spec hardware for its time. But yeah, it's running OpenSUSE, but I can't use the fingerprint reader, which is weird because on the older ThinkPads, I can use the fingerprint reader with Linux. But on this one in particular, I just can't get the fingerprint reader working. Like, they don't have, the kernel doesn't have the drivers for whatever the OEM is for this fingerprint reader. So it's kind of weird. It's like this time period from like 2016 to like 2019 or 2018. The fingerprint readers, there's a whole bunch of fingerprint readers that just don't work with Linux for some weird reason because they don't have any like open source drivers or something like that. All right, so that's my P51. And then I do have my little travel laptop. This is my travel laptop. So this is like the laptop that you take on an airplane. So this thing, this is a 14-inch, 16 by 9. I believe it's 1080p. I'm pretty sure it's 1080p. Well, is it 1080p? Yeah, it's got to be 1080p because it's 16 by 9. I'm trying to think if it's not 1080p. It's got to be 1080p because otherwise it would be like 1600 by 900. But yeah, this is 1080p. This has the fingerprint reader over here. This fingerprint reader does work with Linux because I did install Ubuntu on here. And this laptop is from 2018. So this one is unique because this is the first AMD Ryzen laptop in a professional, like, office business laptop. So it's like, how rare is that, man? This is a Zen 1. Zen 1. It's Ryzen 2000. This is a Ryzen 7 2700U. So quad core, 8 thread, Zen 1 architecture. So it's not eligible for Windows 11, at least not officially. The TPM is considered too old by Microsoft. Notice the lack of the physical buttons. You do have the click on the touchpad, but there's no more physical buttons. Neither this laptop nor my Intel 7700 HQ, neither one, 7th gen Intel and 1st generation Ryzen, they're the cutoff. Those two, unfortunately, are on the side that got cut off, meaning they're not eligible for Windows 11. So what did I do? I installed Linux on them. So this one's running Ubuntu, I believe it's 2404, or it might be 2604, and then the other one's running OpenSUSE for those NVIDIA drivers for the Quadro. But yeah, I always like this one. This one, it has 2 batteries. So it's got 2 batteries. It's got a removable battery. You can see right there. And it's got another battery in here. It's got like a 25 watt hour inside the laptop. And it has a 72 watt hour removable battery. So you can think about that. 72 plus 24. This is basically like having a 90 watt hour battery on a 14-inch laptop. So even though laptops of this era from AMD and Intel were both not very energy efficient, like they both drained the battery pretty bad, which is the reason why Windows had a terrible reputation in terms of battery life compared to Apple for a very long time. This laptop, despite being a small 14-inch, you throw a big fat 72 watt hour plus another 24 watt hour, you got like 90 something watt hours of battery on a 14-inch. So even though the CPU is not that energy efficient, you still get decent battery life because it's a small laptop with big fat batteries on it. So I never had issues with battery life on this thing. So it has a backlit keyboard, touchpad, Mylar touchpad, fingerprint reader, Ryzen Pro. This one is also the first laptop. This is the first Lenovo laptop where they started doing the physical switch for the webcam. So you can basically cover or shut off the webcam. This is the first laptop that I have that does that. And I got this laptop sometime in late 2018 is when I got this. Probably around October 2018. There's some videos on the YouTube channel featuring this laptop with like the docking station. It worked with Lenovo's docking station that used USB-C at the time. Yeah, it was pretty good. I used this for a long time, very long time. This was my travel laptop for years, basically since 2018. Because this is definitely not a desktop replacement. It's a 14-inch Ultrabook, essentially. No discrete graphics, so it just had the integrated graphics with Zen 1. So you can tell it's got like Vega. I think it's got like Vega graphics or something. It's you can't really play like any games. I think I played like Final Fantasy 14 Stormblood on this a few times at like 720p and was averaging like around 35 to 40 FPS on the lowest settings. So it's like I could get by with it, but obviously this is not meant for gaming. But yeah, those old videos on the channel kind of showed what the performance was like. I've always liked the Mylar touchpads. I'm a huge fan of these Mylar touchpads. I'm so used to them. You can see the oil, greasy finger stains that have eroded the matte texture there just from all the use. You can tell that this laptop got a lot of work. This laptop put in a ton of work. And this was really the laptop that was instrumental in proving to me that AMD could exist alongside Intel in the mobile space. Because at this point in time, we're talking like late 2018, Intel was literally the monopoly for mobile. Like there were literally like no AMD laptops because AMD had just come back from the dead with Ryzen on desktop back in like 2017. So you have them trying to go into laptops, and I was like, well, let's see how their laptop goes. And this is running DDR4. I've got 32 gigs. 32, yeah, think about that, guys. 32 gigs of DDR4 2666 SODIMM. 32 gigs of RAM on a laptop from 2018. And I've been running it like that since day one. So all these people talking about like in today's world, we're like, man, you got to get like 16 gigs of RAM. 16 gigs of RAM because the price of RAM is so high. I don't know. To me, 16 gigs of RAM, dude, that's like my laptop from 2011. I haven't ran 16 gigs of RAM since like 15 years ago. My W520, that thing, the one with the big IBM keyboard on the 1080p screen, that thing has 16 gigs of DDR3. 1333. DDR3 1333. So let's take a break from this for a second. So let's see here. T500 ThinkPad T500. This is my very first ThinkPad. This thing has 8 GB DDR3 1066. That's 2x4. ThinkPad T400. So this is a 15.4 inch laptop. This is a 14.1 inch laptop. This one is also 8 gigabytes DDR3 1066 2x4. These laptops are running Intel Core 2 Duo. Dual core, no hyperthreading. Those are my first laptops. So I've always operated on like I have a desktop replacement and I have a airplane laptop. That's what it's my technical term is airplane laptop. Basically the laptop that I don't worry about throwing in a backpack, you know, like under the seat in front of me on an airplane ride. You know what I'm saying? So I always got to have that 14 inch for that reason. Because I used to travel with a 15 inch. Like I was using the not the T500. It was like the W520 for a while. Like ThinkPad W520. This is a 15.6 inch. This was running 16 GB DDR3 10s or 1333 4x. Is it 4x4? It might be 4x4. I think it's a 4-stick. Yeah, W520 I think is 4 sticks of RAM. I could be wrong on that. It might be 2 8 gig sticks, but I think it might be 4 actually. I don't remember. But I remember trying to travel with like a 15, 16-inch laptop, and I'm like, yeah, no. And the thing is, these things are also heavy. Even this 14-inch is not that light. That's because all these old IBM style ThinkPads are built like tanks. These things are built to last. All these ThinkPads that I've got that are like 15, 16 years old, these things still have their original batteries, and the original batteries still work. Now, they probably wouldn't work if I literally left them in the closet somewhere and never, ever, like, took them out on occasion to charge up the batteries. But just pro tip, like, if you want to keep your old laptops for more than 10 years, try to charge the battery or, like, check on them twice a year. Or maybe 3 times a year. I tend to do like two to 3 times a year. I just like dig them out of the pile, plug them into the charger, and see if the battery is charging. Because you don't want these things, like, if you let these things sit in a box or in a closet somewhere, and you let the battery go to 0%, the battery's gonna swell, and you'll have a problem. And that's hazardous. So you don't want that to happen. That's the pro tip of how to take care of old electronics that you don't want to give away or sell or throw away or whatever or recycle. So because man, these things, the battery in these two in particular, these are like old like lithium ion from like 2009. Think about how dangerous that could get if that goes to 0%. So, and because this one is like a big 9 cell. This is a big fat 9 cell. That's like a 90, that's probably like a 90 watt hour battery from like 15, 16 years ago. 16, 17 years ago, even. And yeah, that could be pretty bad if you let that go to 0%, considering its age. That could be hazardous. So, just pro tip, make sure you charge these up or check on them like twice a year at least. Probably 3 times is probably safe. Probably once every 4 months or so. Because they're big, they got high wattage. They're not going to drain that quickly as long as they're still like 80 watt hour or better, I would say. So that's the thing to remember. And then ThinkPad P51. This thing, I can't remember. I think this is like a... I don't actually know what the screen size is. I know it's like a 15? I think it's like 15.6. I think it's the same size as the other one. This one's 32 GB DDR4, 2400, and this is 4x8. This is also 4 sticks of RAM. So you can tell these are the big boy laptops. These things got 4 DIMM slots on them. 4 DIMM slot laptops, SODIMMs. 4 SODIMMs. This one can fit 2 NVMEs plus another 2.5-inch hard drive or SATA SSD. So you can do 3 drives off of this one laptop. And then this one can do, I think, this one has mSATA. This one's got 2.5-inch SATA plus mSATA. Yeah, mSATA on a Sandy Bridge laptop from 2011. So these are like cutting edge when they were new. Like these are like the real deal laptops. So anyway, those are the desktop replacements. And then I have ThinkPad A485. This is a 14-inch. I think it's 14 or 14.1. It's basically 32 GB DDR4, 2666, 2x, 16 gigabyte. This is the very first AMD ThinkPad. That's actually good. Because it wasn't like a budget one. Because AMD typically had only like low-end entry-level stuff for a number of years. But this one was actually the equivalent of a T series. This would be like the successor to this T400. So that's like the airplane laptop, and then and that leaves us to where we are now. So that one is basically this one, for reference. And notice they got rid of the latch. Still really strong, but notice how much thinner the screen is, and the screen can flex a little bit. It can wobble a little bit, but the hinges are still strong. It still pulls up with a laptop. So really, really good. This currently has Ubuntu on it. This is the only laptop I have that has 2 batteries. It has an integrated built-in battery like on modern laptops, but it still has a removable old school big battery like the old laptops. All right, and then I've got this one. I think this is the next one. Yeah, this one. Okay, yeah, this one. All right, this one is interesting. This laptop is a collaborative effort between Lenovo and Intel. And if you're a ThinkPad enthusiast, you probably know what this laptop is. This laptop features a carbon fiber. I don't know if you guys can see the carbon fiber texture. This is actually carbon fiber. You can kind of see the lines. There we go. Carbon fiber. Carbon fiber top cover. See those lines? This is carbon fiber. Carbon fiber top cover. This is an Intel Ultrabook in collaboration with Lenovo for enterprise class, business class, executive, premium laptop. So this is one of the most iconic out of the ThinkPad line for ThinkPad enthusiasts. This is known as the ThinkPad P1. And here it is. The ThinkPad P1 Gen 4. Complete with that Mylar touchpad. Mylar touchpad. ThinkPad P1 Gen 4. So, this is the sort of laptop that in the modern world, and we're going to look at a newer one in a second, but this is the Gen 4. So the thing about this laptop is it is always Intel exclusive because Intel worked with Lenovo on a collaborative design for a premium Ultrabook that could also function as a potential desktop replacement. So that makes this a very unique segment. So for those of you that are familiar with gaming laptops, this is kind of like an Asus Zephyrus or an Asus ProArt laptop. Only this is tailor-made for the business world, whereas Zephyrus is for the gamers. And this is a premium design. So it's not meant to be heavy. This is about 4 pounds. This is a 4-pound laptop. So it's not terribly heavy, but it is right there at the limit of what most consumers consider as heavy as they would possibly allow it to be. So this is a thin and light Ultrabook. You can see, I mean, it's not super thin because this laptop features a 90 watt-hour battery. But notice, unlike the previous laptops, this one has the integrated battery. So there's no more removable battery. It does have that carbon top. This features a 4K plus. So this is UHD plus because this laptop is one of the first laptops to return to that 16:10 aspect ratio. So now we're back at 16:10. So this is 3840 by 2400 resolution. So it's slightly higher res than 4K, but you can think of it as a 4K screen, just in a taller aspect ratio. And then gone is the numeric keypad, because now Lenovo is trying to look at how to make the laptop look premium. And premium is all about making the laptop look more attractive than functional, if that makes any sense at all. So basically, you think about how the previous ThinkPads I've shown had, for a while, they had the numeric keypad on this 16-inch size, or 15.5 to 16-inch size. This is a 16-inch screen, and it doesn't have a numeric keypad. And that's because they took, I guess they were inspired by Apple in that regard, because Apple, maybe Dell and the others were also doing this, but Apple was like, hey, the numeric keypad looks ugly. We want the laptop to be symmetrical and look really clean, so we're not going to feature a numeric keypad. So Lenovo was like, okay, well, let's not do a numeric keypad. And yeah, this layout, this centered layout on a larger screen, 16-inch, does actually look really good. It still doesn't have the physical buttons. This one in particular, being the ThinkPad P1 Gen 4, means it features Intel's Tiger Lake. So this is the Intel 11th gen. Yes, everyone's favorite Intel CPU generation, the 11th gen, which was known as Rocket Lake on the desktop. It is known as Tiger Lake on the mobile. So this is the Tiger Lake H series processors that were featured in the ThinkPad P1 Gen 4. Overall, this laptop is pretty sleek and nice. The downside of it, though, it is one of the worst in terms of energy efficiency. Despite having a 90 watt-hour battery, it only had like 5 hours of battery life, 5 to 6 hours of battery life, because Tiger Lake was so power hungry. And rarely does this laptop ever run completely silent where the fans turn off. Usually the fans, and there are two of them, there's one here and there's one there, so it has the dual exhaust. It almost never turns the fans off, because Tiger Lake is such a terrible CPU in terms of mobile efficiency. So the laptop ends up being noisy while using it, even on battery, which is very off-putting to a lot of people. And when you plug it in, the fans ramp up and it gets even louder when you're running applications. This is the sort of laptop that if you start playing a game on it, it'll be so loud that if you're not wearing headphones, you'll eventually induce tinnitus, because it's just so bad. It's got that squealy, loud fan noise that's just unbearably awful. And this is the sort of reputation that gaming laptops, I know this is not a gaming laptop, but this does feature an NVIDIA Quadro Professional, either Ampere or Turing, depending on the spec that it comes with. It was offered with either a Turing base, so that would be like an RTX 20 series, or later it was offered with an RTX 30 series, typically an RTX 3050 equivalent, up to an RTX 3060 equivalent, because the NVIDIA Ampere was not very energy efficient either. So unfortunately, this laptop comes from an era where neither the CPU was efficient, nor was the GPU. If you had a discrete GPU in here, it was not efficient either. So it's terribly loud under load, like just really, really bad acoustics overall. And unfortunately, this is the sort of laptop that helped move a lot of people away from Windows-based laptops and over to the Apple ecosystem, because Apple, it was around this time, like 2021, 2022, this is when the Apple M series started showing up. So those ARM-based Apple Silicon laptops started showing up, and they were amazing. They had incredible battery life. They were so quiet. They had very good sleep standby battery life, that it made these things look like a joke, even though these things are still very capable. So that's the P1. The P1 is still kind of an iconic, luxurious style business class laptop. The other famous one, which I don't have, is the X1. The X1 and the P1 go hand in hand. The X1 is the small airplane one. The P1 is your big fat desktop. Well, not super fat, but it's your desktop 16-inch desktop replacement laptop in an ultrabook form factor. So that's the P1 Gen 4. And then now we have I think we showed this one earlier, so we're going to go through this one briefly. This is the first DDR5 laptop. AMD was actually the first to roll out DDR5 on mobile. That P1 Gen 4 that I showed just a second ago, that one was from like 2021, 2022 timeframe. That one was DDR4. So Intel didn't really go to DDR5 until later in the Alder Lake and Raptor Lake era. So AMD, though, this is an AMD-based ThinkPad. This is another desktop replacement. You can see it's got the numeric keypad on it. This one replaced my big Kaby Lake, the one that I used when I was in Japan. So I still have the numeric keypad here. This one can do 2 NVMe drives. And really, really good laptop overall. Like I said, this is the last one to feature 16:9 1080p, or actually 4K, like actual 4K, like 2160p on this screen. And the really nice 1.8 millimeter travel keyboard. So this is the last one to have that legendary keyboard. That P series one only has 1.5 millimeter key travel. So this one's keyboard is actually better than that premium P series or P1 series. So this is a P15. This is a 15-inch, 15.6, I believe. P15V Gen 3. This is also the first AMD-based ThinkPad to feature Thunderbolt 4. It's got a USB-C. It's not going to show up on here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, oh, there we go. USB 4, aka Thunderbolt 4, next to the power plug right there. So it works with the Thunderbolt 4 docking station. We've got videos on the channel demonstrating how to set this stuff up. And this laptop was featured in a couple of videos back in 2022 when I got it. So I was using this one as my main like desktop replacement basically for 4 years. I've since replaced this one, but this is kind of the last one that has that older iconic look with the silver ThinkPad as opposed to the blacked out ThinkPad. No carbon fiber. It's got that regular smooth plasticky texture there that you can easily buff out like defects in it. So you don't have to worry too much about it in terms of the quality. It does also have that. It's also one of the last ones to feature the RJ45 plus the SD card reader. You can see that there on the side. In addition to Thunderbolt 4. So on an AMD laptop, that's actually quite rare. Okay, only a couple more. So I already showed this one. So I'll show you guys my main. This is like the main one that I use currently, and we featured this on the channel last year. This is the ThinkPad, and notice how it's got the one finger. Lenovo, so with the current generation ThinkPads, you'll notice they started doing this lip thing on the top, making it pretty easy to open. It's almost like a throwback to the old latch design on those older IBM ThinkPads, but still has that rubbery, plasticky, matte finish, all black, all business, blacked out ThinkPad, and then it's got that one finger, although this plastic table kind of makes it slide, but you guys see it. Okay, I can't open it up because this monitor behind it is in the way. But anyway, let's move it forward. So this is that 16:10 aspect ratio. Full numeric keypad because it's a full 16-inch. The fingerprint reader is now integrated into the power button. Still no physical buttons, but it still has that Mylar touchpad. Click buttons for the track point. And you've got your Ryzen AI sticker on there. And that's pretty much it. So this one, the reason why I use this one is because this one's got, I think it's got like an 86 watt hour or 90 watt hour battery, which is insane for a laptop that has HX370 in it. So it's got all day battery life, big 16-inch, dual Thunderbolt 4 on the left side here. Oh yeah, large arrow keys. Yeah, it's got the full size arrow keys. And the one thing that I really like about the Lenovo keyboard layout, dedicated page up and page down. Dedicated page up and page down has been on all of these ThinkPads, all the way back to like the 2010 laptop. And I get so used to the page up and page down using the laptop that when I switched to Framework, that was like one of my biggest annoyances with Framework, because Framework doesn't have the page up, page down like Lenovo does. I assume Lenovo has some kind of patent from IBM, because I don't know of any other brand that has page up and page down right next to the arrow keys. Most of them, you got to press the function key plus the up or down arrows to get the page up, page down function. But I really like how ThinkPad has a dedicated button like that. But yeah, this is my main. Up until the Framework 16, I was using this as my primary. In fact, I still use this a lot. But if I'm using Linux, I'm using the Framework. This thing is running Windows 11. And that's pretty much it. I got one more to show here. But this is my primary ThinkPad that I currently use. This is current generation Ryzen AI 9 HX 370. So this is a Microsoft Copilot Plus certified PC. This is actually the only laptop I have, unless I was running Windows on the Framework, that is certified by Microsoft for Copilot Plus. So for all those people who love using Copilot Plus, this is one of the premium business laptops for Copilot Plus experience, because of that HX 370 with the NPU for like 55 tops of AI performance. Equipped, in addition to that, the Radeon 890M for integrated graphics. Really, really nice laptop. Extremely quiet. Extremely energy efficient. You can see the vent system on the back here. I guess this is not going to show it that well, but you can see like the vents are two-tiered. You got the ones that are like all the way there, and you have the ones that are up there. So we've done a couple of videos featuring the P16S. I should have said the name of the laptop. This is the P16S Gen 4 with the Ryzen AI 9. So this one is basically the Copilot Plus. The Intel version was not Copilot Plus certified because the Intel, up until Panther Lake and Lunar Lake, there were no Intel chips that featured a Copilot Plus capable NPU, meaning it didn't have a 50 top NPU. So if you wanted Copilot Plus, you basically had to go AMD, or you were restricted to Lunar Lake, which basically means you're restricted to like a really, really small, thin and light airplane laptop that can't go above 32 gigs of RAM. Because this thing has got 96 gigabytes of DDR5 SODIMM. Yeah, we got 96 gigs of laptop DDR5 in this ThinkPad P16S. All right, last one that I want to show here is the very last one. Is also a really good one, man. This one's actually very nice. So we were talking earlier about the ThinkPad P1. This is the current generation ThinkPad P1 Gen 8. So this, if you watch other tech tubers, you guys might, if you watch Derbauer, so shout out Derbauer, this is the exact same it's not his laptop, obviously, but this is the laptop that Derbauer uses for all his like email correspondencing and all that stuff for his YouTube channel and his business like Thermal Grizzly. So this is the P1 Gen 8, and this is actually a lot nicer than the P1 Gen 4 that I was showing off a couple of minutes back. So this one, similar to the AMD Copilot Plus PC that we looked at, it's got that lip design here. It's got that top cover, premium look. But look, check it out. We open it up, similar to a Mac, no more numeric keypad. So you have the symmetrical look, kind of like an Asus Zephyrus or a MacBook Pro. And this one features the Intel Core Ultra 7 Arrow Lake H series processors. And I was telling you guys last holiday season, Arrow Lake H is where it's at for an Intel based laptop, not HX. Arrow Lake HX has terrible battery life, runs terribly loud under load, so you'll always hear the fans. And if you game, you're going to see 100 degrees Celsius on the Arrow Lake HX. Doesn't matter if you're using liquid metal or PTM, it literally doesn't make a difference. So if you want an Intel laptop, you gotta get the H series, not the HX series. That's what I was telling people. And then when I saw DeBauer went and got an H series, I was like, well, I mean, he knows what's going on, obviously. So here we have the P1 Gen 8. And this one is interesting because this is their attempt, this is Lenovo's attempt at truly trying to mimic Apple. So with this touchpad, they are gone from the Mylar. This laptop features a haptic feedback touchpad similar to what you get on Apple. And it is much larger. It is physically larger. No more physical buttons for the track point. You don't have physical buttons at the bottom here, just like on those older ones. So now it is just a haptic touchpad design. And it's got a keyboard layout that looks kind of like a Mac. So it's, you know, center aligned, no numeric keypad. You still get your really good page up, page down. You still have a decent amount of key travel. This is about 1.5 millimeter key travel, so not as good as those older ThinkPads, but it's still better than Apple. And that's the key. It's better than Apple in terms of the typing experience. The touchpad, I would say, as someone who has used Apple before, even though I don't own any Apple laptops, I would say this is kind of on par with Apple. Apple might be a little bit better, though. I think in palm rejection, Apple does a slightly better job. But I think this is still very usable. But the keyboard on this is definitely better than Apple. And then the fit and finish, the deck here is this soft touch rubberized plastic material. So they're not doing any of that metal. I like that it's still got that plastic fingerprint magnet, but it's easy to clean. You don't have to worry about dings and dents and scratches on metal because this is not metal. The top cover is a metal finish, however. So this thing, if you scratch the top of this, that's it. I mean, you're going to have to live with that scratch on that metal forever. So that's why I don't like metal on laptops. So the plastic, though, under here, it's nice. The bottom of it is also this plastic material. So that's the P1 Gen 8 featuring the Arrow Lake H series processors. This laptop is quite unique. It features Thunderbolt 5. Yes, it's got the JHL Thunderbolt 5. So we got dual Thunderbolt 5 and Thunderbolt 4 on the other side. So you got Thunderbolt 5 and Thunderbolt 4. Integrated Thunderbolt 4, chipset-based Thunderbolt 5, and this laptop features LP Cam 2. Yes, LP Cam 2. This is one of the first laptops. ThinkPad P1, I think P1 Gen 7, maybe P1 Gen 6. And I think Dell did a couple of LP Cam like a year or two ago. Basically, P1 is like the first Lenovo laptop to feature LP Cam 2. So this laptop's got LP Cam 2. We got 32 gigs of LP Cam 2 because LP Cam 2 is like so stupidly expensive that you can do 64 gigs or even 96 gigs of LP Cam 2. But I think 64 gigs is like $1,400 right now. I don't even want to know what 96 gigs of LP Cam 2 costs. So this one's, unfortunately, even though it's got LP Cam 2, it's limited to a measly 32 gigs of DDR5 or LP DDR5. So that's what's in here. You can do 2 SSDs plus the LP Cam. It's got an NVIDIA RTX Pro Blackwell 1000 or 2000 in here. So that's kind of like an RTX 5050 or an RTX, or no, is that like an RTX 5060 or RTX 5070 options in here? Relatively small. I mean, you know, it's like 4 pounds, kind of like the older one. But overall, this is pretty nice, man. Like, I would say, like, DeBauer is going to be satisfied with his laptop because it's a pretty good laptop. I mean, I use a similar one, which is not that one, but I use the AMD one, and The difference is the AMD one doesn't have the Quadro in there or the NVIDIA Blackwell in there. So the AMD one ends up getting better battery life because it doesn't have to power the NVIDIA GPU. Of course, you could go into the BIOS and turn off the NVIDIA GPU, but why would you do that? Because if you would do that, why not? Why waste money on a laptop with the Blackwell GPU if you're not going to use it? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, so the P1 Gen 8, really good. But that's kind of my little show and tell, guys. Like, this is why, for someone like me, it is very hard at this point to switch brands, because to go from ThinkPad to Framework, the Framework Laptop 16 is quite a shift if you've been using ThinkPads basically your entire life. And then now I'm daily driving this thing using Fedora Workstation. So talk about paradigm shift. You spend more than a decade using Windows and Lenovo ThinkPads, and now you go to a startup company with Linux. Like, whoa, man, that is a world of difference. All right. So that was the little show and tell segment for this stream, because we haven't done one of these in a while. The last time we did a show and tell, it was basically the RAM overclocking. We were doing like 4 sticks of we were doing like 198 gigs of DDR5 on a gigabyte board. So let's finish. I'm just gonna finish typing this out. 32 GB DDR4, 3200, 2x16. ThinkPad P15V Gen 3, 15.6 inch. I'm pretty sure it was that big. And this is doing 32 GB DDR5, 50 or 4800 DDR5. This is the world's first DDR5 laptop. 2x16. And then, what was the one after that? ThinkPad P14S Gen 6. This is a 14-inch. This is 64 GB of LPDDR5X soldered RAM. Is it supposed to be an L? I think it's supposed to be an L. Soldered RAM. 64 gigs of soldered RAM on an airplane laptop. Imagine how much that's going to cost nowadays. All right, ThinkPad P16S Gen 4, 16-inch. This is running 96 gigabytes of DDR5 5600 2x48. SODIMM. And then ThinkPad P1 Gen 8, 16-inch, 32 GB LP Cam 2. And that's it. That is the current ThinkPad collection. The whole collection. How long did this take me to do this show and tell? Oh, that was like, we spent over an hour. I spent over an hour on the show and tell segment. So it's kind of weird because when you guys were voting earlier at the start of the stream, Lenovo got 60, almost 2/3 of the vote went to Lenovo. And when I look at my laptop collection is basically this list plus the framework laptop 16. Like, what? Like, this is it. I mean, there's one other laptop. There's one other laptop that somebody did mention. There is a laptop called HP Omen Max, or is it Omen Max 16? I still have that laptop. I barely ever use it. That laptop has turned into nothing but a machine that I boot up to run Rufus. I don't know why the HP Omen. The bizarre thing is this is a gaming laptop, and I don't even use it for gaming anymore. I use it for Rufus to like load up like Linux active USBs like for Linux distros. Like what in the world? Like that's what the HP Omen is used for, guys. It's used for Rufus. Yeah, the HP Omen, man, this is a really good laptop though. Like the specs on this thing are super good, man. Like this laptop, first of all, this laptop has an AMD Ryzen 9 or Ryzen AI 9 HX375. It's got the rare HX375. You know, and I've got what's in here right now? I've got 96 gigs of DDR5 5600 SODIMM 2x 4 no, that's not true. I got 1 TB SSD. I got 4 TB SSD. So we got 5 terabytes of storage in this laptop. And I don't even use it for like anything. It just sits there for Rufus. And then get this. This thing has my most capable gaming GPU. RTX 5080 laptop GPU is in this thing. RTX 5080 laptop GPU. And it literally sits there, does nothing, and it's used for Rufus. The crazy thing is, even though I could run some decent AI stuff on here, which is probably what's going to happen to this thing, to be honest, it's probably going to turn into an AI thing. Yeah, that's 16 gigs. 16 gigs of GDDR7 RTX 5080 laptop GPU. Throw a bunch of ISOs on it. Oh man, well I've never used Ventoy. I've just been using Rufus on it. I'm too lazy to put Rufus on my desktop, so it's like I just use it on that one laptop. Because it's like every time I have to, like, I want to throw Linux on a machine, I'm like, I gotta go find the Omen. I gotta go find the Omen Max. Because that's my Rufus laptop. Like, I don't have Rufus installed on anything else except that one laptop. Talk about redundancy or lack of. I gotta go find the Rufus laptop. Yeah, there are gonna be some changes. This laptop is going to lose this 96 gigs. I can tell you that right now. I'm not gonna tell you why, but I can tell you right now it's gonna lose the 96 gigs. There's gonna be some redistribute. Actually, hold on. It already lost the 96 gigs. I remember. Scratch that. That's not true. It's not running 96 gigs. You know why? Because I gave the 96 gigs to the framework. This has the 96 gigs of DDR5 5600. Talk about favoritism. Talk about favoritism. Just yank that 96 gigs out of that HP Omen. The HP Omen currently is running 64 gigs of DDR5 SODIMM. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to reveal the reason, but I can tell you right now that HP Omen is going to lose that 64 gigs. Actually, is that true? No, it's not. It's not going to lose that. There's another laptop that currently, this laptop is actually currently running this. This is going to lose this RAM. This RAM is currently in here. When I bought the 15V, this one, it came with 32 gigs of DDR5 4800. So this would have been like 2022. In 2024, so 2 years ago, I went to Micro Center and bought this 64 gig crucial 64 gigs, and I upgraded my ThinkPad P15V Gen 3 to 64 gigs. I doubled up the RAM from DDR5 4800 32 gigs to DDR5 5600 64 gigs. But this RAM is actually not going to stay in this laptop. It's going to go into something else that we will be revealing in a few weeks. So, yeah. I won't say anything else on that. But yeah, the HP Omen Max came with 32 gigs. I upgraded it to that SODIMM. I've been moving the SODIMM around basically, so it's in there now, but it's gonna eventually end up in something else. because we've got some videos planned in the future. But yeah, I'll tell you. So currently, my favorite in terms of the quality of the laptop experience, the best laptop that I use today is this one. It's a tie between this one or this one. Those are both really good. Then the framework. Then the P14S Gen 6. Then the P15V Gen 3. Then the P1 Gen 4. Then the HP Omen. So if I have to rank them in terms of like, okay, first of all, I have to draw a line. These guys are so old, they're not used anymore. So these are all legacy. Those are all legacy. Those just sit in a pile in like on a desk or a table somewhere. They never get used. So that's the reason why we're running Rufus for all these different Linux distros. So I might actually try Linux on one of these super old laptops, but these are like super old, man. Like that's so old. That's so old. That's also so old. Because these are like, I mean, we're talking like super, super old. Core 2 Duo. That's how old. Core 2 Duo. This one is i7. Sandy. I'm trying to remember, like, what's the actual CPU? i7 2720Q H. Is it HQ or MQ? I can't remember how Intel named their laptops. It's like some weird. It's like something. I don't know. It's like some weird QM or whatever. It's some mobile i7 for Sandy Bridge. And then this one is i7 7700HQ. This is probably like a MQ or something, or HQ. I don't know. We're just going to leave it like that. Then this one is Ryzen 7 2700U. This one is i7 11850H. This one is Ryzen 7 6850H. This one is Ryzen AI 7 360. We're going to have to move this over. This one is Ryzen AI 9 HX370. This one is Core Ultra 7 258H or something. And then the framework is Ryzen AI 9 HX370. And the HP is Ryzen AI 9 HX375, and which is already written there. So that's basically what I've got. So that's it. So we've got, you know, decent spread between AMD and Intel laptops. We even have the modern Intel Arrow Lake Age. There were custom conversion kits that put modern processors into those old. That would be a really good idea, man. I would like to do something like that. Basically do like a framework upgrade to one of those old ThinkPads. These old shells that have these ancient stuff. These three are the OGs. They've got those IBM keyboards with the blue enter keys. Yeah, those are the ones. These first three here on the list. But, okay, so just so you guys know, like, this one has Windows 7, Ultimate. This one is Windows 7 Ultimate. This one is Open SUSE Tumbleweed. So just so you guys know what is on these things, like, I didn't bother to get rid of Windows 7 apparently. This one is Ubuntu 20. I think it's 20. It's either 24 or 26. It might actually be 2604 LTS. And then this one is everybody's favorite operating system, Windows 11 Pro. That's what I'm talking about. Windows 11 Pro. What is this one? Windows 11 Pro. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Windows 11 Pro. Show me that Windows 11 Pro. This is a Windows dominated household. And then what we got over here, framework, Fedora 44 workstation, an HP Omen Max, Windows 11 Home, because it's some gamer thing. Gamers. Windows 11 Home for gamers. On the HP Omen Max, aka the Rufus machine. I mean, because it's Windows 11 Home, guys. Like, what am I gonna do? It's like Windows 11 Home. There's no like pro features on it, so it's just gonna be relegated to being like a Rufus machine. How do I get all these machines? I collect them over years and years and years. Like, this is like 2010. Let me see, what year did I get these laptops? This was 2010. This was 2011. This was 2011. This was 2017. This was 2018. This was 2022. This is also 2022. This is 2024. This is last year. This is this year. And this is also this year. We never did a video on the P1 Gen 8. And then this was last year. There. It's not like I went and bought all of them all at once. You know what I'm saying? Like, these have always, at some point in time, these are my main laptops. These were daily drivers for at least like a year or two. Some of them are actually work laptops that were given to me. So meaning I didn't actually buy them. I'll give you an example. So this was given to me. That was given to me. This was given to me recently. That's why there's literally no YouTube videos on it, because it was like a work laptop. And then this was also given to me. So it's interesting. Some of the Intel laptops were just kind of like given to me. The AMD ones, most of the AMD ones I've actually bought with my own money. I did buy the Sandy Bridge one off of eBay, and I bought the P51 off of Newegg. Most of them from Lenovo.com. I'm trying to remember. So these were basically given to me, the ones that are circled. This one was eBay, secondhand off of eBay in like 2011 or whatever. Or maybe it was 2012. And then this one was Newegg. Because I had to go to Japan, and I was like, I gotta get a laptop that's gonna be really good while I'm over there. Because I'm not gonna bring a desktop over there. So I got this as a desktop replacement. And then when I came back to the US, I basically was so sick and tired of a heavy laptop like this. Because this is a heavy laptop. This is like a 6-pound laptop. I was like, yeah, I want something really light. So I went and got this thing. It was like the first AMD laptop that I got. And this was like a thin and light 14-inch. And then the place I was working at the time, they gave me this one. That was a few years later, though. That was like 4 years later. This was like after, right around the end of the pandemic, was Tiger Lake. And then I got this off of Newegg. So the Newegg ones, I bought this off of Newegg. Oh, that's right. I bought the P51 off of Newegg, brand new, right before the Japan thing. And then I replaced it with this one. Because these are actually very similar when you look at them. The P51 was a super heavy duty workstation laptop. The P15V with the AMD Ryzen 7, the Zen 3 Plus in it, was the first DDR5 laptop. And the thing is, the reason why I stopped using this, I still have the laptop obviously, because this what is this, Kaby Lake or something, Two reasons. Number one, this laptop is quad core, 8 thread. So this thing was becoming a bottleneck. Quad core, 8 thread. Number two, no official Windows 11 support. Because they're like, hey man, Microsoft's like, hey, you're on Kaby Lake. You can't go to Windows 11. You're not allowed. So I was like, okay, I got to buy a new laptop then. That's why I got this AMD thing, the ThinkPad P15V Gen 3, because I wasn't about to like downsize from this to this, because so I stuck with like the big heavy giant thing with the docking station and all that stuff. So that's how I got back to my Windows 11 Pro. So that was from Newegg. So these two were from Newegg, and that was basically it. All these other ones. So this was given to me recently, or this one, the LP Cam 2 one. I can't afford this, man. This is like a. Have you looked at how much this laptop costs right now? I can't afford this. So this was given to me, through an employer, and this one, these two I bought with my own money off of Lenovo.com. Before the stupid RAM apocalypse. That's how I have 96 gigs. And Chief, one of the guys who watches the channel, who runs Monster Hunter Wilds with us, you know, he bought the exact same laptop on my recommendation, and he's happy with it. We locked in 96 gigabyte SODIMMs right before the run-up, man. So now we're sitting on, like, workstation laptops that have, like, 13, 15, 16 hour battery life, because these things got big fat 90 watt hour batteries on an HX 370, which sips power for an AMD chip, and 96 gigs. Now the thing that hurts the battery life is actually the SODIMM, LP Cam, and DDR5X. So what I can tell you guys, the really nice thing about soldered RAM, and this is one of the secrets of why Apple has very good battery life. LPDDR5 uses 50% less energy than SODIMM. So that automatically means that if your laptop has soldered RAM or better, LP Cam 2, you automatically are getting 25 to 36% better battery life with the exact same CPU. And I plan to test this, because the standby drain with LPDDR5 is so much lower than using SODIMM. So I used to be a huge fan of SODIMM, but man, we need more LP Cam 2. We need way more LP Cam 2. One thing about this Arrow Lake, so this is, for those that are wondering, this is the Derbauer laptop, and I've got one too now, apparently. So me and Derbauer, we're doing LP Cam 2 on Arrow Lake, and oh my goodness, man. The battery life with LP Cam 2, it's just as good as the soldered stuff on my Ryzen AI with the LPDDR5X. Like, I'm thinking, man, socketable LPDDR5, it's in the name, low power DDR5. This thing is 50% less power than the traditional SODIMM. So I'm not a huge fan of SODIMM anymore. I like the upgradability, because I like how I can have like big fat 96 gigs of DDR5. But man, it hurts battery life. This balances it by putting a big fat 86 or 90 watt hour battery in there. So it's still pretty good battery life. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, but I'll be back in like a second. Okay, I was looking for... I tried to find... I couldn't find the other ones, but I did find a couple of these. So I did find this. So this is a 32 gig kit of memory that I bought from Micro Center. And look at the price on that. $154.99 for 32 gig SODIMM back in the day. This is DDR4 memory. Here's DDR5. So this is the 96 gigs, 2x48, SODIMM, crucial. $304. $304 for 96 gigs. This RAM, this 96 gigs is currently in this framework laptop. When I ordered the framework earlier this year, I didn't pay for the memory because I already had this RAM from last year or whenever I bought it. I mean, it was $304. This same memory kit today, if you were to buy this memory kit from Micro Center today, you'd be spending, I think, about $900 for the exact same RAM kit. I mean, we can verify that. Let me go find their laptop memory. I mean, that's the kit that I always monitor just to compare. Yeah, $900, man. $900 at Micro Center. It went up another 100. Oh, I'm not sharing it apparently. Whoops. Oh, I gotta make this thing smaller again. Look at that. Look at that. $900. I paid $304 like a year ago. Oh, wait, this isn't even the same kit. This is 64. This is 64. Mine is a 96 gig kit. They don't even have the 96 gig kit anymore. Yeah, they don't even offer it. They only do the up to 64. 64 is $900. I paid $304 for 96 gigabytes a year ago. Just to give you guys an idea. So, it's a problem, man. Like, this is really hurting the consumer electronics market right now because it's like, man, the prices, this is just going to make the price of upgrades just unfeasible for a lot of people. Are you going to be able to wake up for the Duskbloods? Yes, I will be doing it. I don't think we're going to be streaming it though. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to stream it unless I find out we're allowed to, and even then I won't do the first one. I would do the second one. Kind of like what I did last year with Night Rain's network test. But yeah, I have the game already downloaded and installed on my Switch 2, ready to go. So yeah, I will be waking up early for it. But don't expect me to be streaming it. Don't expect a stream is what I'm telling you guys. In terms of... What was I going to say about... What were we talking about? Oh, you're saying about you're going to go to sleep. So just so you know, and this is for everyone watching, there is no Tech Thursdays next week. Just so you guys know, public service announcement, there is no Tech Thursdays next week. Specifically next week, just next week. So there's no, I will put a thing on the community message thing for the channel. But yeah, there's no Tech Thursdays next week. So, so don't expect Tech Thursdays. That's the one. Like we rarely miss episodes. I think this is probably the second episode or the second week of this year that I'll have missed an episode. Yeah, I'll put a note in there. But yeah, there's definitely no Tech Thursdays next week. There will be weekend live streams next weekend though. I don't know if there will be a weekend live stream. There probably will be a weekend live stream this weekend. But there will be no Tech Thursdays next week. So I'm telling you guys now. I'll announce it again at the end of the stream. We're actually kind of at the end of the stream. There's not a whole lot more to talk about. I mean, what else was there? We talked about the leaked Intel. Duskbloods. The Guardian leaked the Duskbloods release date. I don't know if that's true. They're saying the end of September. I mean, I guess they could launch it then, but I kind of think my guess was like early December. But yeah. I forget what we were talking about with the laptops. I mean, I wanted to show you guys the memory. Yeah, like the pricing on it is just ridiculous right now. But yeah, that's basically what I use. I typically use Windows 11, and currently Fedora is the Linux distro that I'm using most of the time. I do also use Ubuntu. In fact, I'm actually thinking of switching to Ubuntu in the near future as my primary Linux distro, mainly because I don't know how much longer Fedora 44 will be supported, since none of those Fedora releases are LTS. So I may just end up switching back to Ubuntu. Yeah, no, Duskbloods has nothing to do with Bloodborne. It's a completely different franchise. It's a brand new franchise. If I'm not allowed to stream the network test at all, I don't know. I am gonna wake up early to test it, and other than that, I may not even play more of it. If I can't really stream it, I probably will do the weekend stream featuring a different game. I think I got the 96 gig kit when it had just started to go up in price. It's like 500 in December. Yeah, because it was 649 in February. Yeah, because I was watching it. Because the reason why I was watching it because I wanted to buy another one. I wanted to buy another 96 gig kit so I didn't have to taketh awayeth from my Omen Max. But when I got the framework, I was like, I don't have any RAM for the framework, so either I'm taking that 96 gig kit from my Omen, which is what I ended up doing, or I'm going to give the Omen's RAM, which it came with 32 gigs of RAM, SK Hynix RAM, I can give that to the framework. But so basically what happened was, it became, which do I like more? Do I like the framework laptop 16 with Fedora 44? Or do I like the HP Omen Max 16 with Windows 11 Home? And I'll tell you right now, Fedora annoyed me. But the framework laptop 16 was so much better than the Omen Max that I was like, yeah, nope, sorry HP. We're totally going all in on framework. I don't care if you have a 5080 laptop GPU. I don't even play any games on this laptop anyway, because I use the desktop to play all my games regardless. So making this thing kind of pointless. The only thing that I like this 5080 laptop GPU, I will say, like, this thing's really good for running local AI on a laptop. Because this thing crushes in AI performance versus like an NPU or some integrated graphics or whatever. Yeah, no, the 5080 laptop is good for AI, but the HP Omen Max is not as nice as the framework laptop 16. The keyboard of the framework is way, way better than the HP. In fact, I can go and get that HP. I'll go and get that HP. I'll show you. We'll do a comparison right now. We'll compare them right now, face to face. I'll probably do a video. I was gonna do a video, but never got around to it. But let me go get that HP real quick. It's funny because the HP, there's the Omen Max. Good old Omen Max. Omen. So, it's funny because the HP Omen Max is the only HP laptop that I have ever owned. And the only reason why I got it is because when I saw the price during the Black Friday holiday season last year, that's why I made a whole bunch of videos about this laptop, because I was like, man, if you're in the market for a gaming laptop, and I don't typically buy gaming laptops, nor do I recommend gaming laptops, but when I saw this thing, what was it, like $16.99? It was like $16.99, $1,700. $1,700. Dual NVMe, 5080 laptop, Ryzen AI HX 375, which means it's a Copilot Plus chip. Unlike all those Arrow Lake garbage things that burn the battery up super quick. So you get better battery life than literally every single other laptop, gamer laptop, that has some like Intel HX 275. Because that thing, you're going to get like 2 hours of battery life. This thing, you get like 7 hours of battery life on a gaming laptop, of all things. So that's really good battery life for a gaming laptop. And it has a 5080 laptop in there. So this is like the best. The best. Why am I opening it up backwards? You got your ports on the back. You got your RJ45 and all that stuff. You got Thunderbolt 4. Yeah, Thunderbolt 4 on an AMD laptop, aka USB 4, because it's got the Copilot Plus, the good AMD mobile chip, not the bad AMD mobile chip, the good AMD mobile chip. So this is the HP Omen Max. I barely use it. It's, despite its high specs, I barely use this thing. I'll tell you why I don't use it. I don't like, it's, first of all, it's heavy. It's heavy because it's a gaming laptop. I don't like the keyboard. I really don't like this keyboard. For some reason, I mean, it's okay. It's not terrible. But compared to Framework, it is inferior. Framework Laptop 16's keyboard is so much better because the Framework Laptop keyboard is more like a Mac. This is more like some gamer slop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, but no offense to the gamers, but as someone who spent like a decade of using ThinkPads every day, like, this to me is a downgrade. Huge downgrade in the typing experience for productivity. Now, it's got high specs. You know, you got your little RTX 5080 laptop in here, which that's cool. I mean, I guess. But it's like, do I really care when I use a desktop to play games? Like, you know, like if I'm going to... Would I want to take this on an airplane? No, because it's heavy. Like, it's, you know, it's bulky. It's thick. It's got, like, the rubber stoppers that hold it to the desk that protrude outward, making it like even thicker than it needs to be. So, but they do that for airflow reasons. It's got liquid metal. Yeah, liquid metal. I'd rather it have PTM. This thing, PTM 7950. Standard PTM 7950 from Framework for the GPU, for the CPU, integrated graphics, NPU, all that stuff, PTM 7950. Meanwhile, this thing, liquid metal, which is good, I guess, but I've heard that if you keep it like in a backpack, if you keep it vertical all the time, like a PlayStation 5 or whatever, it could potentially leak the liquid metal over a long period of time. I've heard there's been reports of that with liquid metal in laptops. So not really good from a reliability perspective versus what Framework is doing. But the difference is Framework is taller because it is thinner. They went with flatter but wider, or flatter but taller, whereas HP went with shorter but fatter, if that makes sense. So the HP is thicker, but as a result, it's bulky. It just feels kind of bulky. This thing does have challenges getting into some backpacks because it is so tall, because the graphics module sticks out the back. But you know what's nice about the Framework? You can literally remove the GPU if you don't need it. So I could turn this thing into an airplane laptop that's more like an Ultrabook if I wanted to. All I gotta do is take out the discrete graphics card. You can't do that with the HP Omen. So Framework has got it beat in terms of the keyboard. Framework is way better than the HP. And in terms of the modularity, obviously Framework is S tier when it comes to modularity. And the PTM is like way better than liquid metal in terms of reliability. So man, like Framework is just, you can see how Framework is owning this competition right now even though in terms of specs, this thing has that 5080 laptop in here, 5080 laptop GPU, whatever. I mean, the framework can go up to a 5070 with 12 gigs as a removable discrete GPU. Now, I don't have that GPU. I have the Radeon 7700S because I'm cheap and I was going to run it on Linux, so I don't really care about the NVIDIA stuff anyway. Because it's like, why do I need the 5070 for this when I'm going to run Linux and I already have a 5080 in this thing? You know what I'm saying? And the CPU is basically the same CPU. Ryzen 9 HX 370 on this, and Ryzen 9 or Ryzen AI 9 HX 375. The difference between the HX 375 and the HX 370 is 5 tops on the NPU. They have the exact same clock speeds for the cores, exact same boost algorithms. There's no difference in the actual CPU performance between these two chips, or these two laptops chips. So that's the reason why framework ended up winning. Now I'll tell you what the HP does better than the framework, because it's not like the framework just dominates 100%. What HP does better, obviously it has a more powerful GPU, for what that's worth. The touchpad is worse. The keyboard is worse. At least it does have the ability to physically close the camera, like most laptops have that now, so HP does have that on here. So props to HP for including that, but framework already does that. The framework takes it one step further. Framework has a physical shutter as well as a physical switch for the microphone. So you can literally hard shut off power to the microphone on the framework. You can only do the software microphone mute on the HP, as well as the ThinkPads for that matter. So yeah, they do the privacy camera, but framework does the privacy camera as well. So that's a wash. I'm trying to think what's good about it. Oh, I like that it has built-in RJ45. Built-in RJ45. Now, people are probably like, man, that's a lame argument when you can add the RJ45 to the framework, and that is true. You can definitely plug in an expansion adapter on the framework for the RJ45, but the only problem with doing that on the framework is their expansion card for the Ethernet port is way large. It jets out the side of the laptop, almost like one of those USB wireless mouse dongles, which I don't like the look of that. So that's why I never use the RJ45 with this laptop because of that. So I like how the HP includes the LAN connectivity at the back of the laptop. But I'll tell you, the barrel plug on this is garbage. I hate the barrel plug for the charger on the Omen versus using USB-C power delivery to charge the framework. I can literally plug and the framework comes with a legit 240 watt USB-C charger. Yeah, 240 watt power delivery over USB-C. They're one of the few in the industry that even do that. 240 watts over USB-C to charge a laptop. And you can plug it in here or there or over there. So you have choices on how you charge the framework. You have to plug the barrel, traditional HP barrel plug on the back here. You can't plug it in over here or over there. There's less choice there in terms of charging the laptop. So that I think that's a win for the framework. Although the counter argument is, well, you're wasting a USB-C to charge the framework, whereas on the HP, you don't waste your USB-C ports on the HP because you use the barrel style plug. So yeah, there's an argument in terms of both. Now, the counter argument would be like, well, I can plug a Thunderbolt 5 dock into the framework and charge the framework directly off of the Thunderbolt dock, which is exactly how I use the framework. So I basically get all my triple monitors and all that stuff, and I'm still charging the laptop on one cable, whereas on HP, it does not allow power delivery over the USB-C, so you have to use the barrel charger to charge the laptop if you want to get the full performance out of it. Whereas the Framework, you don't have that problem because the BIOS is set up to basically cap the boost ratios based off of what sort of charger you plug into this thing. Meaning you could charge this thing using a Mac laptop charger as long as it's USB-C and it has power delivery, but it won't charge as fast, or it will not boost the CPU if you're using it for stuff while you're charging it, unless you have like the heavy duty charger, like a 240 watt, or at least like a 180 watt USB-C charger. So, I mean, the Framework is really good, man. Like, I really like what these guys are doing. Oh, I'll tell you another thing I don't like about HP Omen. No fingerprint reader. No fingerprint reader. I don't use Windows Hello. I don't use the webcam to log in. I don't like having to type the password because you have these super long passwords that are like 36 characters long. It's like a super long password. So it's like, man, that's so long. That's why you gotta have the fingerprint reader. And Framework has, not only does it have the fingerprint reader integrated into the power button, the fingerprint reader works on Windows and Linux. So it's really tough, man. Framework is like, hopefully you guys can understand now why I'm like, yeah, sorry, HP, I'm taking those 96 gigs and we're putting them in this thing and we're leaving it that way. I don't care if this thing has a weaker GPU. This thing is just, it's just superior in terms of the user experience. And that's proof that a laptop doesn't have to be the highest performing. Just because you got a 5080 laptop in that, just because you got a 5080 in your laptop, that doesn't mean your laptop's better than like another laptop. You know what I'm saying? It's the user experience, the overall package is what ultimately matters when it comes to these things. And I feel like a lot of that isn't really covered when you look at a review and you just look at a bunch of bar charts. The user experience matters way more than just some numbers on a bar chart. You know what I'm saying? Because if they're all the same chip and they're all basically in the same ballpark, then, you know, at that point, it's apples to apples. And at that point, you're trying to figure out like which one has the better keyboard, which one has the nicer screen. Oh, speaking of screens, that's one thing HP does better. Yeah, that's where the Omen does better. The screen on this, the IPS matte screen on this thing's got a really nice screen, 240 hertz, FreeSync / G-Sync IPS, 240 hertz. The screen on this, in the color gamut, wide color gamut, really good. Better than the Framework screen. It's not that much better, but it is better because it has a higher refresh. When you're on a battery, you're going to be running at 60 hertz anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. Although, to HP's credit, this does have an objectively better screen than what is offered on the Framework Laptop 16. Framework Laptop 16 is a 165 165 hertz FreeSync G-Sync panel. HP does better on the minimum brightness. Framework is too bright on the low brightness. I don't care about maximum brightness. Maximum brightness is whatever. I care about minimum brightness. I want it to be super, super dark. The darker the minimum brightness, the better. And the Framework one is way too bright at 0% brightness. That's one of my biggest negative things about the Framework hardware, is the screen does not get dark enough. Yeah, all these other reviewers talking about like peak brightness levels. I could care less about their peak brightness levels. That's nonsense. We're talking about a laptop, guys. We want battery life. We don't care about peak brightness. Peak brightness matters to a degree. It's not like the be-all, end-all. You want peak brightness, go use a monitor, an actual OLED on a docking station. Sometimes people just have the wrong priorities. The upgrade pack on the Framework can carry it further than the 5080 on the Omen. Yeah, eventually, that's the thing too, guys. Like eventually the 5080 laptop will be outclassed by newer hardware that can be put into this chassis, this framework chassis. So eventually the framework will outperform the HP in like everything. Even the screen will probably get an upgrade in the future. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, I just think overall this is the better laptop over the HP. And ultimately this is because I got this laptop and started using Linux, that's the reason why I barely use the HP Omen. I barely use the HP. I don't take this on planes. I don't travel with this thing. This thing is basically, it sits on a table all day. It just barely does anything. That's why it's the Rufus machine. It's the Rufus machine. It runs Windows 11 Home. I mean, it's completely useless outside of like gaming. But like I said, I'm a enthusiast. I'm a true enthusiast. I don't play games on a laptop. Most of the time, I'm going to play games on a desktop. That's what actually matters. Not some laptop. So to me, gaming laptops are mostly gimmicks. What's stopping them from putting a CPU socket if LPCAM is the future? I mean, years ago, CPUs on laptops were socketable. But for some reason, I don't know what it is, like R&D or whatever, they don't do it anymore. There was a time when CPUs were field replaceable on laptops. Unfortunately, that's not the true anymore. That's not the case. Now they're all like soldered. I mean, they could do that. They could do that. The reason why they don't do that, if I had to guess, is because the chip designers, so basically Intel, AMD, Qualcomm, those guys, they don't bother making BGA or LGA designs anymore for mobile. Like all the reference designs are all basically soldered to a reference board or a reference not really reference board. Yeah, I guess there's a reference board, but all of them are going to build the PCB based off of the form factor of the laptop and then the cooling system on top of that. But yeah, the framework is good, man. Like this thing, I'm convinced this laptop, I'm going to be using this thing like 3 years from now, 4 years from now. I'll still have this and I'll still be using this. I guess the only downside is I won't have this. I won't have this big mountain of laptops of a collection like I showed you guys earlier with all these ThinkPads that we literally like ran through a whole show and tell segment on this episode of just a whole bunch of ThinkPads that I've collected over the years. With framework, now it's gonna be more like framework, Gen 1, framework Gen 2, Gen 3, and it's like the body stays the same and certain things change over time. Like maybe the screen will be replaced by a newer, better screen that has better dynamic range on minimum brightness, maximum brightness, etc. And then obviously stuff like the CPU will change, memory style will change. So what I expect to see next year, here's what I intend to do with the framework. Now, I don't know for a fact, I can't say 100% that framework is doing this, but I assume next year we will see Zen 6 Mobile. Zen 6 Mobile in 2027. And that will have LPCAM. We talked about this last weekend. LPCAM 2 is starting to roll out on Zen 5 on Lenovo. We talked about this. For those of you that didn't tune into that stream, did we do that on Tech Thursdays last week? I don't think we did. I think we did it during the gaming stream. So let's do that real quick. Let's find some LPCAM laptop real quick. LPCAM, ThinkPad, P series. Oh, you guys aren't seeing it. Hold on. LPCAM, P series, new arrival, P16S Gen, right here. Bam, right there. ThinkPad, P16S Gen, basically the successor to the laptop that I'm the main ThinkPad that I use now. The successor to it, currently starting at $1,900. What does it have? Let's see what they got. Let's see what they got. Okay, check it out. Gorgon Point. AMD. Hold on, that's all they got? Where's the other one? Oh, right here. Bam, right here. Right here. $4,600. AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX Pro 470. So this is Gorgon Point. This is the success. This is the refresh to what I currently use. Windows 11 Pro, 64-bit. NVIDIA RTX Pro 2000 Blackwell laptop. And get this, 96 gigabyte LP DDR5X LP Cam 2. Yeah, 96 gigs of LP Cam 2 on an AMD Zen 5 laptop. So it can be done. And there's the proof right there. But look how much it costs. Because at 96 gigs LP Cam, and plus we got an NVIDIA RTX Pro Blackwell in here. So you got discrete NVIDIA graphics, in addition to a Radeon 890M on a Gorgon Point, which is a refresh of Strix Point. You got an OLED 2880 by 1800, 16-inch OLED anti-glare. Now, I don't like that. That OLED is a deal breaker for me, but I mean, beyond that, this is a deal breaker too, because I would never pay that much money for a laptop. So, and then 4-cell rechargeable 90-watt-hour battery, fingerprint reader, 140-watt charging, backlit keyboard, MediaTek Wi-Fi 7. So you got your AMD Wi-Fi there. Everybody doesn't really like that much. But anyway, you get the point. So the point is 96 gigs LP Cam 2. 96 gigs LP Cam 2 with NVIDIA Blackwell on an AMD Gorgon Point ThinkPad P16S Gen 5. This is the world's first, and apparently this price is 30% off, according to Lenovo. Yeah, this is supposedly 30% off. So apparently it's supposed to be I mean, these look like arbitrary numbers to me. This is ridiculous. But, I mean, there you go, guys. LP Cam 2 on a Zen 5 laptop. Here's 64 gigs on an LP Cam, but this one's got the lower end Blackwell. So this is an RTX. This is an RTX 5060, I think, and this is an RTX 5070 or something like that. These are like the pro equivalents of those GeForce cards. Effectively, I mean, this is an 8 gig GPU. This is an 8 gig GPU GDDR. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think this is 5060 and this is 5070. So similar to the Framework Laptop 16, because the Framework Laptop can spec a 5070 up to 12 gigs of GDDR7, unlike this one, and you can do up to 96 gigs of SODIMM DDR5, which is a lot cheaper than 96 gigs of LPCAM2. But LPCAM2 is going to have much better battery life. Plus that big fat 90 watt hours on that really energy efficient HX 470. So that's actually quite potent, man. This is a really nice laptop. I can tell you right now, as someone who literally daily drives the P16S Gen 4 with the Strix Point, I know the build quality of this. We literally showed it off earlier. But that's just too much money. That's way too much money. And that's because of the whole RAM situation. Raise prices by 130%. Still call it 30%. Yeah, I know, man. This is insane prices. These are insane prices. Ridiculous pricing right now. It's insane. And LP Cam makes it even more expensive because LP Cam is so niche right now because it's basically bleeding edge technology in the mobile space. It's literally socketable LPDDR5X. If you think about that, it's modular LPDDR5X. LPDDR5X uses 50% less energy than SODIMM. This automatically means the battery life on this is better than the laptop that I have, even though it is a refresh of the exact same CPU that I have. You can add an NVIDIA GPU in there, and it'll still get better battery life because the LP cam is so much more energy efficient, especially while the laptop is asleep in standby. Suspend to RAM. The LP cam uses so much lower voltage that when the laptop is asleep, we're talking like this is the secret sauce why Apple. It's not. This isn't the only reason. Obviously, Apple is using ARM, and that helps as well, a ton. But the reason why Apple gets so much better battery life than Windows or than like all these other laptops, number one, soldered RAM, LP DDR5, and ARM architecture. So Intel's getting pretty close, guys. Panther Lake is getting pretty close to Apple's efficiency, and you combine that with LP Cam 2 on Intel, and man, Intel is trying to like fight against Apple with all its might with this LP Cam 2 1-2 punch plus Panther Lake, and it's doing pretty good. Panther Lake is quite impressive for an x86 in terms of battery life. But it's got some help from that LP Cam 2. So that's kind of a future technology. I mean, it's been around for a couple of years, but only the premium ThinkPads seem to get access to LP Cam. Framework has it in one of their new laptops, which we talked about previously on the channel. So they've got that as well. But it's nice to see that, because my thing was, I want to see more laptops with LP Cam. Because for the longest time, there was Arrow Lake. I mean, Meteor Lake had it first, then Arrow Lake got it, and now Panther Lake has it. So I'm like, okay, AMD finally has it with the refresh. The Gorgon Point has it. So next year, the most interesting thing I'm hoping to see in the future is a Medusa Point. So basically, the successor to Strix Halo, Medusa Halo, I think Medusa Halo, whatever the successor to Strix Halo is, if we can get LP Cam 2 on like the successor to Strix Halo, that is like endgame mini PC, endgame mobile platform right there. Because that gives you upgradable LPDDR5X on a Strix Halo successor. And that was the biggest weakness of Strix Halo, was it had to be soldered RAM for the memory bandwidth. That's another reason why it's super good on mobile, because it's using that it's using the LPDDR5. LP Cam 2 is dual channel. That is a great question. It is dual channel. So you only need one module to get channel A and channel B. So very good stuff. I remember when there were a couple of people that were interested in it, like back when it first debuted, like a year or two ago. And I covered it briefly, but I didn't really talk too much about it. I didn't really get too into it just because I knew that, number one, it's going to take a couple of years for it to ramp up. And number two, there was like nothing that used it. You saw it at like Computex in Taiwan as like a concept thing on like a desktop motherboard, which made no sense at all. And then now you start seeing it show up in laptops, so that's good. I always thought it would be a laptop technology, and it makes sense to go on laptop because you want battery life on a laptop. Yeah, they couldn't get it to work. The reason why they couldn't get it to work on Strix Halo is because they couldn't get... There was something that would require a complete redesign of the memory subsystem from AMD. But here we are, guys. A year or two later, I think it's about 2 years since Framework worked with AMD on that. So 2 years later, and here we go. LP Cam 2 on Gorgon Point. So it can be done. It can be done. Lenovo has the dollars to throw at it, but I really think AMD probably put in the legwork after they realized that Framework was wanting it and they couldn't do it at the time because it would take too much engineering effort, and Framework had a roadmap that they had to meet. You know, you got to launch the product, so it's like you can't just wait it out. So here we are, 2 years later, LP Cam 2 coming to AMD. So I fully expect Zen 6 to be offering a lot more different models like across the stack with LP Cam 2. Because Intel's been there since Meteor Lake. You know what I'm saying? Like Meteor Lake, the P1 Gen 7 had LP Cam 2. And the P1 Gen 8, literally like this laptop right here. Where is it? I got too many of these laptops, man. There's too many of them. Where is this one right here? This one right here. This is my LP Cam 2 laptop. This is LP Cam 2. This is my LP Cam 2 ThinkPad. ThinkPad P1 Gen 8. Same exact laptop that Der Bauer has. This one. I'm not going to be rude to the Omen. Get the Omen off here. Don't just sit on the Omen. Now it's going to tilt. And it's going in its side. Maybe that liquid metal's going to leak out, though. All right, so P1 Gen 8, man. This thing's got LP Cam 2 in it. ThinkPad P1 Gen 8. Arrow Lake. Intel Core Ultra 200 series. So, yeah. Arrow Lake on mobile with LP Cam 2. But Intel had it with Meteor Lake. Intel Core 100 series had LP Cam 2 in the previous generation of this laptop. And the successor to this is known as the P1 Gen 9. The P1 Gen 9 also has LP Cam 2, and it is using Panther Lake. So imagine the battery life on the Gen 9 of this with LP Cam 2 plus Panther Lake. It's going to be similar to what you see on a Framework Laptop 13 Pro, which also uses Panther Lake on the Intel version. MSI had it on a desktop motherboard. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense on a desktop, man. Because desktop today is like minimum 48 gigs. Typical 64 to 96. LP Cam at those amounts is like ridiculously expensive. I mean, do we even know how much the LP Cam? How much is the LP Cam? How much is LP Cam? Let's see. Let's just spec one of these frameworks out. Yeah, look at that. Check that out. They don't even give you the option for 96. And if you want 64 gigs of LP Cam, $1,600. $1,600 for 64 gigs of LP Cam 2. How much is SODIMM? Let's go to AMD. Ryzen AI HX 370. I've got way too many laptops with this CPU in it, for real. I've got Framework's got this, HP Omen's got this, my ThinkPad P16's. I got like 3 laptops with this one CPU in it. That's insane. That shows you how much this is my favorite laptop of all time on the mobile. So good. All day battery life. Still really good integrated graphics. When this thing first came out, nothing could touch this thing in terms of integrated graphics performance. Nothing. But man, even today, it still holds up. It still holds up. But anyway, let's see. 96. Yeah, see, look. You can get 96 gigs. 96 gigs of DDR5 laptop memory for $1,300 from Framework versus $1,600 for 64 gigs of LP Cam 2. So LP Cam 2 is effectively 2x. $800, $810, that's close enough. $800 for 64 gigs of SODIMM versus $1,600 for LP Cam 2. So it's effectively 2x the price if you want to go to LP Cam 2. So this is the serious problem that we are in with memory right now. Like, it is insane. Like, all these people are like, oh, it's not that bad. The people that are saying it's not that bad is because those guys are probably trying to get by with like 16 gigs of RAM or something. Like, dude, I haven't been on 16 gigs of RAM since 2011. So to me, I'm like, that's a 15-year regression in terms of technology by doing something like that. Basically, when I think of RAM, 2010 to 2015 was like the 16 gigabyte era. From 2015-16 to the pandemic, that was the 32 gig era. The 2020 to 2025, that's like the 48-64 gigabyte era. And now we're kind of moving into the 96 to 128 gigabyte era for the second half of this decade. That's why I'm telling people 48 gigs is where it's at if you're on a budget. Otherwise, you better be on 64 or 96. But now it's too late because we all know what happened with this AI stuff. Yeah, the prices are ridiculous right now. Ridiculous. So, huh. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. When they're told what to upgrade to when they ask, they get upset at how the laptop that is literally 8 times faster does not cost $600. Yeah, I think the... What was I going to do here? Oh, Ars Technica Framework Laptop 13 Pro review. I think it was this one. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this is a really good review on this laptop, actually. This is probably the best review I've seen that demonstrates the effectiveness of two things, LP Cam 2 and the efficiency of Panther Lake. So if we just kind of run through this real quick, I just want to highlight certain things about it. So the laptop itself is good, but here we go. Check it out, man. The agony and ecstasy of LP Cam memory modules. Do they talk about it up here? Okay. They basically say they're going to use Ubuntu 2604 LTS or whatever. Framework says Ubuntu. This is this. Okay. So check this out. LP Cam 2. There it is. There it is. You have the compression cover, which also acts as a heatsink and an EMF shield. This framework claims that this shield improves Wi-Fi performance of the laptop because it helps reduce the electrical noise from the RAM from leaking and causing the Wi-Fi signal to be weak as it's near the laptop. And then you have the actual DIMM itself in the middle, and then you have this thing on the bottom called the interposer. This thing is pre-installed. You do not want to remove this. Although for some reason they removed it for pictures. But you can see that is what the LP cam looks like when it's covered, and then the way you remove it is you go in the reverse order. To remove it, you do 3, 2, 1, and then to tighten it, you do 1, 2, 3. That is the pro tip. That is the correct way to install LP Cam 2. Most people will not know this because they have never dealt with LP Cam 2. Okay, here we go. They took that off. There's the actual module, and then underneath it, there is the... So they've actually took the interposer off because these are the copper contacts. This is the reason why LP Cam 2 can run at much higher frequencies than traditional SODIMM because the trace layout is perpendicular or orthogonal to the motherboard as opposed to, well, actually the DIMM lays parallel. Yeah, it's parallel. The DIMM is parallel to the motherboard, but the pins are still orthogonal, but they're far more dense and they're closer together. So you have more things like ground pins. So you have more ground pins, you have more sense and power pins. So you basically get better signal to noise ratio by doing this compared to traditional SODIMM. On top of that, you can put this closer, physically closer to the CPU, meaning your trace layout, your wire runs that go through the laptop's PCB between the CPU's memory controller and the LP cam is much better because you have it in this like flattened out, almost like the sea of wires on Strix Halo, if that makes sense. So that's the LP cam. And then it says here, they talk about how it works. But the fascinating thing that Ars Technica did is they actually mix and matched. They mix and matched because Framework is the only brand that allows them to do this kind of review testing, meaning they can take the motherboard with the Panther Lake and they can go and put it in the old Framework 13 chassis with the lower capacity battery and see what happens. So these are the performance numbers, but I want to see the battery. So check this. Wait, is this it? Okay, where Panther Lake really helps the Laptop 13 Pro shine is in battery life. In past Mark 10, Modern Office test with screen brightness set to 200. Okay, so the 13 Pro and its 74 watt hour battery lasted just a hair over 18 hours. Far more than any previous Framework Laptop 13, and finally long enough to decisively eliminate mediocre to poor battery life as the laptop's biggest downside. We also did limited testing with other Framework parts to see how the 74 watt hour battery would perform with older Framework boards and how the Core Ultra Series 3 board would perform if it were dropped into a current Framework 13. So basically, if someone already has a Framework 13 and they want to upgrade to a Panther Lake, they can totally do that, and that's part of the whole thing behind Framework's mission statement, the whole upgradability and modularity. So if they did that, what happens? So here, and hold on, let me turn that off. So here, if you have the top one is basically the brand new Framework 13 Pro with Panther Lake with the new battery, and you're getting 1082 minutes running PC Mark Modern Office rundown test on 200 nits. And the 200 nits, that sounds realistic. That's typically kind of how I would run the screen. I'd probably run it at more like 150 nits, or maybe even lower than that. But that to me seems real world. And then the Framework 13. So here, the second one is if they take the motherboard with Panther Lake plus the LP cam, because remember, LP cam and Panther Lake are a package. Like, you cannot separate them. They're both on the motherboard. So LP cam plus Panther Lake with the old battery still manages to do 945 minutes. That's still very impressive. This is what I mean by LP cam and Panther Lake being super good in terms of efficiency. Now, here's another thing. They did the Framework 13 Pro with the Ryzen AI HX370. So basically my favorite mobile chip. That one, so this is basically the 13 Pro AMD version instead of the Panther Lake one. So same exact battery, but now you have the AMD chip with SODIMM DDR5. You lose the LP cam, so you don't have that 50% power reduction on the memory. But it's the AMD is doing 669 minutes without LP cam, but it does have the 74 watt hour battery. So and right underneath it you have the AMD 370 with the old battery, the original 13 battery, 61 watt hour. And you can see it's worse. It's actually the worst on this list. So 516 minutes just by going in the new chassis with the new battery, you're basically improving the battery life with the exact same hardware. So that's interesting. So imagine if someone had the older AMD motherboard, but they wanted to upgrade the chassis with the new touch screen, which is a 3:2 aspect ratio screen, as well as the higher capacity battery, the new haptic touchpad, all that stuff. They would still get a bump in battery life. Now, it's still not going to match LP cam plus Panther Lake. That's just way too good. It's still not even close. But it's interesting to see what happens when they do that. And then we've got some older stuff. We've got the Framework 13 with Meteor Lake. You have Zen 4, so that's the Ryzen 7000 series. That's Phoenix Point. Then you have a 13th gen Raptor Lake, as well as the Alder Lake 12th gen. So they didn't test those in I guess they can't because this one's like frame rate 12. And then they have some rando stuff down at the bottom here. They've got the Asus UX 8407 with a Panther Lake. That thing is matching. It's kind of close to the Panther Lake on framework. I don't know what the Asus battery capacity is, though. It's not listed here. Then they have another Asus laptop with Lunar Lake. And Lunar Lake is losing to the framework 13 Pro with Panther Lake. So, and Lunar Lake has soldered RAM. So that's interesting to see how this plays out. So bottom line is LPCAM 2 plus Panther Lake is amazing. Like, it's amazing. Because all these other framework laptops that are in the middle here, that are getting anywhere from like 500 something to 600 something, these are all using SODIMM DDR5 or DDR4 in the case of maybe this. Actually, I think all these are, yeah, these are all DDR5, even the 12th gen Intel, because this is the refresh 12th gen, so that's on DDR5. So these are all SODIMM DDR5. So very, very interesting stuff. Somewhere in here, I encourage you guys to check this review out if you're interested in reading more or learning more about LPCAM and the efficiency. But basically, the TLDR is LPCAM 2 and just LPDDR5 versus SODIMM DDR5 reduces the power consumption by the memory by 50%. So that's a massive improvement in battery life just from changing the RAM. But Panther Lake, I'm not trying to discredit Panther Lake. Panther Lake is amazing. Like, what Intel has done for x86 in terms of the battery, the efficiency gains on Panther Lake is incredible. They basically did what they took what they learned from Lunar Lake, and they've now applied it to a much larger tile-based design. So really, really interesting. When I saw Lunar Lake, I was like, yeah, Lunar Lake's good, but give me something more high-end, more enthusiast class than Lunar Lake, because Lunar Lake is like thin and light, 32 gigs cap, soldered RAM, not upgradable, up to 8 core, 8 thread, and nothing more. So I was like, yeah, it's nice that it exists, but it's not enough for an enthusiast. But Panther Lake basically blows all of that out of the water. It's like, now you've got big Lunar Lake. That's basically what Panther Lake is. Panther Lake equals big Lunar Lake. So all the efficiency gains that Lunar Lake had, Panther Lake has them. On top of that, Panther Lake can scale up with LPCAM. So really, really good stuff from Intel for that x86 architecture fighting back against Apple. So anyway, guys, that's probably going to be it for this episode of Tech Thursdays. Like I said at the beginning or earlier, there is no Tech Thursdays next week, just so you guys are aware, and I'll put a note on somewhere on the community page. So no Tech Thursdays next week, but otherwise we'll be back the following week with the normal cadence, and there will probably be a weekend live stream this Friday. Don't expect to see Duskbloods, because I think we're not supposed to stream it, but I will be playing that in like a couple of hours or whatever. And if you like this content and this is your first time watching and you want to participate with these live streams, do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, get notified when I go live. Sometimes we do PC build videos. Sometimes we do some other like gaming streams, typically on the weekend. So if you want to participate in that or stop by, hit the bell icon to get notified when I go live. I don't typically try to push people to do that. I don't like when other YouTubers tell you hit the subscribe button and blah, blah, blah. But if you think you got some entertainment value or some info out of this, then if you want to subscribe, then I'm totally fine with that. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks.